see everyone here for the March 11th meeting of the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners. Before we get started, we just ask if you'd please turn your cell phones off or any other electronic devices until we get through the meeting. We will be standing for the invocation led by Commissioner McCoy and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would just ask that you bow with me for the next few moments. Father, we just come to you as always, thanking you so much for your goodness and mercy, and even thanking you in advance for the good things that you do for us. Lord, we just ask now for that wisdom that only comes from above. Lord, just impart that here this morning as we go about doing the business of Meriwether County. And Lord, we thank you for the crowd that's gathered here this morning, and just bless them in a special way, Lord. And Father, we ask now, just lead, guide, and direct in all that's said and all that's done. In that name is above all names. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you have before you the agenda for today. Is there anything that needs to be added? Here, will you have anything? Needs to be added. Okay. All right, here and none, can we have a motion to adopt the... excuse me.
Also, to know if we could add teammates to the agenda.
Well, I think I emailed you back so that we would address that at a later time.
Okay, sorry, that email it, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think the June, you said the June meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw the email.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you after
Okay.
that.
Anything else? If there's nothing, we have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. You have the minutes from the April 26th regular meeting, work session, April 26th regular meeting, and the May 3rd special call meeting. Had an opportunity to look over these minutes. Are there any corrections, any changes that need to be made?
Madam Chair, I saw no corrections that needed to be made, and I move we accept all the minutes just announced.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Minutes are approved. We'll come to the municipal comments. I believe we have Mayor Glover from Greenville.
I'll have everything at the time.
Okay. Any other municipalities represented? Okay, next will be the constitutional officers, and I don't believe we have any here this morning. If any of them come in, we'll go back and pick them up. We'll move right along to our department heads, and we'll start over here to Brent.
I'm just to move things along based on pack schedule. I'm based on our pack agenda. I'll wait till
Okay.
next
All
month.
right. Patty?
No.
Ron?
No.
Jane?
Well, I put everything at your plate that I want to talk about, but I just want to point out the art on the wall is from the Meriwether County School System. See first, second, third place art in relation to our Keep Meriwether Beautiful program. So these are some of the posters and they used our theme, so I'm very proud of the art that the students did. I just want to share that with you.
Do you want to give any of the report from the cleanup? I know you had your meeting on Friday. Do you want to say?
You got my report up there. I didn't even keep a copy of it.
Got the number of bags and stuff. I know that's.
Yeah, look at that little piece of paper inside here. I'm trying to bring it with me. At the same time, just like give it to you. A little white piece of paper inside your thank you note are the results. We had 506.5 bags of trash and litter picked up in one day. And I believe it was 248 volunteers participating. So I was
That
very
was
pleased
great.
with that. To have over 500 bags of litter picked up in one day, I was very proud.
Thank you so much for your leadership on that.
We'll make sure that Johnny gets a copy of that report.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Get the
He's
paper.
got a copy right there.
He's got-
at your desk.
Oh, okay.
He's already got the press release there.
We got some
Okay.
stuff
It
to
should
get.
be in the paper Friday.
Thank you. Any other department heads? Ms. James with Extension Agent Office. Carolyn with Chamber.
Yes, two quick things. One, I want to remind you about the business after hours next week at Warm Springs Medical Center at 5:30. They have some new programs and services they want share with the public, so I hope you all can come out and participate.
What day is that?
That's on a Tuesday. You should have received an invitation. I hope you
did.
all did. Okay, good.
I just couldn't remember the date.
Okay, 5:30 on Tuesday, the 17th, I believe that is. Also, you all probably know about this already since it's under ACCB, but this courthouse's passport program that they're rolling out under the tourism and in combination with you all, will be, unless you all want to handle this in a different way, we'll be talking about it at our tourism team and identifying some ways that we can make this work, unless y'all wanted to do this in another way.
Like it falls right under tourism.
Yeah.
Welcome center.
Thank you.
All right, we do not have need for a public hearing. We'll carry on to our old business, and it's renaming of Old Raleigh Road. Mr. Gay?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, Commissioners, this came before the board as a request for renaming back here, a couple meetings ago. And Mr. Rod Garrett is with us this morning. This has actually been advertised as it needed to be, so it's back before the board today as an action item. And the petition is to change the name of Old Raleigh Road, beginning at Arthur Brown Road and continuing northeasterly to Charlie Hatchett Road. And the proposed name change is Brooks Bowden Mill Road. And we bring that back before the board. Ron, do you have any other comments on that, buddy?
No, they have signed to all the properties along that stretch, and there'll be about a 300-foot section of Old Raleigh Road from Calhoun Road to White. They will not distance on that. So all all the names are signed, all the things that have not been taken, passed through.
So based upon that, we would recommend the change of the name.
And there was no opposition?
No, sir, I haven't received any opposition whatsoever.
Okay. All right, hearing this information, can we have a motion to rename Old Raleigh Road to Brooks Bowden Mill Road?
I move that Old Raleigh Road be now named Brooks Bowden Mill Road.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
While I'm still standing, I forgot to mention one thing, there'll be another film crew in the county this weekend,
Okay.
and then the rest side is going to be multiple farms out there, so rectify TV series.
Okay. They called us the other day about that.
Thank you. All right, we'll move along to new business, and we have a request from the Department of Public Health for change in county code.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My regulations that I enforce used to be up under DHR, Department of Human Resources. We're now under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Health. So back years ago, the county adopted the DHR, all my DHR regulations as county code. And the beauty in that is I get to prosecute things in magistrate court instead of having to tie the Superior Court docket, which is a real slow process. I hardly ever take anybody to court, so that's kind of a new thing. So since we became Department of Public Health, the code numbers have changed. So that's really all that, the codes are already in place and enforceable throughout the county, but the code numbers have now changed. So, Ms. Henderson, I don't know if this is just an adoption of new code numbers, or if we have to abolish the old code and totally adopt the new codes.
I think what we have to do is by virtue of an ordinance, and we'll prepare that and have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay, and I sent y'all, Theron, I think, the new numbers. And also,
That's it.
we now have the portable sanitation contractors rules and regulations. These are for our porta johns, and we need to also adopt these into county code.
Okay. All right, I guess we can do all that at the same time. That'd be something.
Sure.
And I've got a copy of this.
Yeah, and that's those code number changes, Eugene, you'd said it right there.
Yeah, the first were code number changes that I sent, and then this is a new code here.
Right.
And if you'll give me that, Gina, we'll take care of it.
That's all.
next meeting is the 24th, so you think we'd have it ready? Sure. By then? Sure. Is that okay?
It's gonna take a second reading.
We'll take two readings.
So we'll bring it up 24th, and then the second reading then would be on June the 8th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next on the agenda is corporate health partners. Michelle?
Okay. This is the time we ask for renewal of the client services agreement for another year, to continue another year of the Meriwether County Employee Wellness Program. There has been no increases this year to the contract, so everything from a monetary standpoint is staying the same, although I'm pleased to tell you that we've already been working on some plans for the upcoming year. We have some different things that we're going to try to do in addition to what we've already been doing this year to get some additional movement going with getting some of our higher risk employees into a moderate or low risk category.
Or do we have to, do we need to take action on this today? Okay.
And just to comment on that, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, I think this program has really been a good program, and I think that was reflected in some of the renewal rates on insurance that we experienced. We appreciate the good job you guys.
And I don't know if, our rates are actually going down. And that while most folks are experiencing increases, we are going to have a decrease. And we do attribute a lot of it to the wellness program.
Which is excellent. Well, we have our screenings coming up the last 2 Fridays in June, so once again, probably by August or at the latest September, we'll have the data available for the employee assessments from the current, and if there's any changes from the current year to.
Okay, any questions for Michelle? Okay. All right,
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
All right, can we have a motion to accept the new agreement with corporate health partners?
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. Next is the appointment to the Pine Mountain Regional Library System. Janie Neesmith has been serving in that position, and we do have a request from the library asking us to reappoint Ms. Neesmith, and I believe that is in my district, so I will recommend that we reappoint Janie Neesmith to the library board. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, Jim Vice, Habitat for Humanity. I don't
I don't
see him.
see him here. I had spoken with him, it's been a couple weeks ago, he wanted to be on the agenda, but I think, Beverly, when you tried to call him, we did not get him in touch with him. So what we may do is just ask that the board, we'll place this on the next agenda,
Okay.
and we'll try to get in touch with him again.
Okay. Do we need to take a motion to table it then?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you have a motion to table Habitat for Humanity to our next meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is the LMIG application for the courthouse wall.
Yes, ma'am. This is just a confirmation. I think we've been working on this wall for a while, and the GDOT has decided they want to do it as an LMIG application. Initially, they wanted us to go ahead and just get bids and then bring it forth, but then when I talked to Mr. Bishop last week, he said, hey, if you'll go ahead and get it in, I can be processing it. So what we've done is we've used our best estimate that we had at the time, and we are submitting that LMIG application. GDOT will cover 70% of the cost of that project. I'm hoping by next week we'll have those bids out as well, and we can start to see where we stand with everything.
It would appear here that we included the islands in this.
Yes, ma'am.
In there.
That includes the islands, the sidewalks, the restriping, all of the things downtown, the encapsulation of the wall and everything.
Okay.
But the figure that appears on here is the entire figure and not our share.
That's right. That's the entire thing. Yes, sir.
You have the information for the LMIG application for courthouse wall, and we have a motion to confirm this application.
I move to confirm.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll move along to the budget requests. I'll turn it over to Mr. Bill and.
Yes, as we've done in the past, as Madam Chair calls the name of the organization, should just come forward. The board has a copy of your proposal, and they may have some questions for you. If not, then that'd be about it. And once you're finished, feel free to leave. I know everybody's real busy. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right, first on the list is PFAX. Ms. Love.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kitty Lovin. I'm actually the interim director at Meriwether County PFAS. I began fully in Meriwether County May 1st. Have over 20 years with the state, and I came from Spalding County as an administrator, and I've been a consultant with the state the last 2 years. I'm pleased to be in Meriwether County. I'm looking forward to working with the staff to make you aware that we have some new employees that have been hired. We do have 3 new employees that began with the agency in March, and we also have a current position that's available for an investigator. So we are actively recruiting and looking for an investigator to fill that actual position, as well as looking at recruitment for foster parents, because in Meriwether County right now we have 0 foster parents, which brings me to what we were talking about as far as the agency's request. Looking at it and meeting with the board, the funds for Meriwether County was at $10,000 for the county money. We were looking at possible increase because of the reason, the rationale for that is I have active totals that shows just within the year, May of last year to May of this year, we've had an increase of like 20 children to come into care. The current total of children that's in foster care in Meriwether County is 44 kids. None of the kids are placed in the county. So all of our kids are housed all throughout the state of Georgia, which is requiring workers to travel immensely. Most of their work is spent out in the field. We've had an increase in the numbers based on the state overall, so it's not just specific to Meriwether, because of what has happened is that safety resources that we used to have for children, they can no longer stay in those past 45 days. So a lot of those cases, children are actually coming into care. And we're also not able to do the actual guardianships anymore for the kids, and we're having to look at more permanency plans for them. So the one thing about it is that we may see more of an increase as this continues to happen. We received custody yesterday, and it just continues to happen based on the needs of the children. The reason also the request for the increase is that we're looking at things that we have to do to supplement for the children. Right now, if we cannot locate places for children, we have to put them in hotels. We had a child that had to sleep in a hotel last night. So we incur expenses for hoteling as well as food costs that the county's having to pay for the children, because we pay the providers to pick them up lunch and dinner. We try to normalize the situation for them as much as we can. And then also to provide for our kids. We had 2 that went to the prom. Independent Living program pays for some expenses for them, but we also wanted to make sure they had the appropriate tubs and buying the corsages, doing the thing to normalize behaviors for them just as well. So we're looking at trying to increase and being able to supplement what we feel our kids need and that our families in the community need, so that we continue to try to help them. So we wanted to ask for an increase in our budgeting amount for the county.
What was that amount?
We wanted to see if we could be approved for the $15,000, which would be a $5,000 increase from what has been received in Meriwether. And that amount at 10 had been there for a while, and we spoke about that with the board, but because of cost and even the foster parents, we pay a smaller amount, but then diapers, everything's increased, with time. So we know in order to be able to pay foster parents, and we have to pay in whatever county our children in, and the cost to offset various things for them, it's happening. And we do know about, even as far as resources that's needed for the children, sometimes we're having to have transporters put in, and it's all over, the state that we're having to get the kids taken care of.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
Madam Chair, thank you for your well-presented presentation on this. Just a question regarding, I know there's an increase in foster care period. It's very saddening for you to say there's no one in the county that actually participate. will there be any initiative or any program that you all could do to kind of educate or get more people involved so these children would not be outside of the county? Because then, to me, that takes away from what they're familiar with. How far out do they have to go sometime, in order to accommodate them?
Right now, we have even kids that may be placed as far as Savannah, Georgia.
From
or
Meriwether County?
From Meriwether, or either as far north, on up in Rome, or different various areas. And the workers are having to travel to see their children. And what is happening is, the state allows some counties to actually say that they'll see the children, but these are our children. We need to see them, we need to lay eyes on them. So as I talk to staff about, I want you to make those contact visits, because we need to make sure those things are in place. What initiatives are in place at this current time is, there's some pilot programs in Region 5 called Home in 5. We're going to be trying to shadow some of those counties to talk about how the community can assist us. Home in 5 is a program where basically they worked with their community partners to try to bring their children back into the counties, and that's why it takes everybody. Whether we're reaching out to our churches, all of our community programs. I know there's reasons that we can get some foster parents in Meriwether County. My background came initially when I was in Muskogee County in resource development. So as far as recruitment is concerned, I will work with the county with that. Region 4 now has a regionalized resource development unit. There's not a particular person housed in Meriwether, but there is a designated person to work regarding recruitment. So we'll be working on that. So you look forward to seeing some meetings in the community. And so if you know people who are interested, we can look at foster parenting as a whole, or as a respite home where they're just assisting, or either just some immediate homes. It's very hard. I looked at the young lady, 15-year-old yesterday that we had in the office. Of course, the numbers are harder when we got teenagers, but it's also hard for them to be removed from their parents and they have to sleep in a hotel at night. That's a difficult thing. Whereas if we had a possible foster home to say this is where she sleeps tonight until we maybe can find a better resource, that's a better option for her. We're trying to normalize these situations for them, and the only way we can do it is try to bring our community together and have some resources here.
Thank you. All right, anything else?
May I make a comment, or is that out of order?
No, sure.
Okay. And I'm,
Kenya Levitt.
okay, my name is Carolyn McKinley, and I'm the chairperson of the Family Connections Partnership. And we meet right down the hall from your office, and that is already an organized group that includes faith-based community, a lot of human service organizations, a lot of community leaders, and that probably is one of the best avenues for you to create this initiative that you're talking about in terms of bringing foster care into the community. You already have a stable group that addresses all sorts of human service and educational issues. So I would invite you to that table and start there.
Great, and I will do some follow-up with Ms. Jennifer as well.
Yes, thank
And
you.
we also have Irma Harden that's
Yes.
there from Twin Cedars. So
Thank you.
there's some resources in the county, and I met with them so that we can start having them in the services meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bill, we don't take any, we just hear their information. We don't take
Yes,
any
I failed to
action.
mention that the board is just gonna, this is just information session. They will vote on your request at the May 24th meeting. If there's any further questions, myself or Mr. Gay will be back in contact with you to finalize those final numbers that they will be voting on.
Okay. All right, next we have the DA office. Mr. Scandalakis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Mr. Gregory, for communicating with us, and it's always a pleasure to see Theron. I travel the circuit, and I think Theron travels with me. He follows me wherever I am. I was at a Carroll County Commission meeting. They were talking about Theron Gay, so
They wouldn't look at me to prosecute me, were they?
I think Theron and I are attached at the hip. I'm not sure.
We're glad to have him in Meriwether.
A good place to be. Let me introduce to you Vicki Yeager. Vicki is helping me with the budget this year. Y'all probably are aware Linda Tipton typically does that with me, and Linda has had some health problems, and Vicki's taken over. I also want to introduce Robert Peterkin. I don't know, all of y'all know Robert's been here for years, and one of the promises I made many, many years ago was that Robert would stay in Meriwether County. He was And so some of you may not have a face with the name, but that's Robert Peterkin. And Sarah DePore is the other assistant DA assigned to Meriwether County. Both of them together have about 34 years experience, and they split duties here in Meriwether County as well as they split duties with Heard County. I'm prepared to ask questions. Mr. Gregory asked me for some information. We sent all that information to y'all. I'm prepared to ask any questions. I will get down to the bottom line. The bottom line is that we are asking for about a 3.8% increase in our budget. Total increase will be $7,577 over what y'all approved last year. Last year you approved $190,699. Plus you also approved a copier at the price of $5,493. Obviously the copier comes off this year because it'll be paid for. So bottom line increases, I'm asking for about a little bit less than $700 per month to help me retain some of my senior prosecutors and my senior staff members. I'm doing that, and many of you may not be familiar that years ago, and I know I've already said this to some, but just to go back. Many years ago, all 5 counties and all 5 county commissions approved for me to go what are called state-paid county reimbursed employees. Instead of having Meriwether County employees, Coweta County employees, Troup County employees, Heard County employees, and Carroll County employees, we now go to what is called state-paid county reimbursed employees. And I tried to keep everybody on the same pay scale. Obviously, if you're doing similar work in similar counties and you want to make sure that people are paid equally. This year, the state passed a budget which included what they called some retention schedules in order to keep some of the senior prosecutors, and that's the purpose of this $7,577 increase. I will point out, and I pointed this out to y'all last year, and this bears repeating. 2 years ago, the counties decided they no longer wanted to do a shared budget. In other words, we had a formula where Troup County, Coweta County, and Carroll County paid 28% of my budget. Meriwether County paid 8% of the budget, and so did Heard County. They paid 8% of the budget. I would submit the budget to all the counties, and they would decide whether or not they wanted to approve that budget. And usually what happened is the big counties would wait to see which one blinked first, and then they would go along. Since that time, last year, the decision was made by the big counties that they no longer wanted to do that. They wanted to fund what is called their own separate budget and just let Carroll County approve its portion, let Troup County approve its portion, let Coweta approve its portion, and then Heard and Meriwether approve its portion. Because of that, Meriwether's portion came down from 8% to less than 8%. This year, let me pull that. Your funding, the caseload in Meriwether County is about 16% of my total caseload in the circuit. Meriwether provides 5.9% of the total budget. That's why I bring in 2 assistant DAs who have 34 years experience between them to handle the cases here. You're getting bang for the buck. I also have a secretary here, an investigator who is retired from the GBI with over 30 years of experience, is here to assist Sheriff's Department, the Greenville Police Department, Manchester Police Department. And you're also getting a victim advocate here that's paid for out of 5% funds that doesn't come out of the county coffers. So you're paying 5.9% of a budget, even though my caseload is 16%. This is substantially down from what would have been had we been still at the 8%. I'll note we have a number of homicide cases on our caseload this year. That's a little bit different than it's been in the past. I don't know why that is. A lot of it is drug activity. That's substantially increased. Obviously, we had that shooting with 11 people involved here. Most of them were from LaGrange, but they came here to have this party and ended up in a shooting. In 2015, we took in 743 cases, 831 defendants. Thus far in 2016, up to date, 241 cases with 258 defendants. And let me point out, the 743 cases, when y'all see a case, please understand that a case may involve multiple charges. So when I say a case, I'm not talking about multiple charges, because you can also break your cases down by multiple charges. That's the presentation of my budget. I'm here to answer any questions. I've tried to keep this request to a minimum because I know that the counties are hard pressed for money. I have tremendous sympathy for DFACS. That's a huge job. That foster parent issue is a situation we're dealing with across the state with not enough foster parents. So that's a tough job. But I'm here to answer any questions that y'all have. I think the budget's pretty straightforward. It's a real minimal recommendation or request to y'all.
I'll say to you that due to my workload, I haven't had time to educate myself on your request with the increase, but by the 24th, I'll be able to do so. And you know, every year I do question it. And,
yes,
you know, the issues I have, and like I said, I haven't educated myself on it, so I hope I don't make an idiot out of myself talking. But it seems that every year there is a request for increase from your department. But there's also, in some way, form, or fashion, it comes around to where the caseload or workload is taken off of your department in some way, and we have to increase that part into the county and pull additional funds to take care of that because it's no longer taken care of under your department. So not only are we every year increasing your budget, we're also having to pull from our general funds to take care of what can't be handled by your department. So that's just my concern. And like I said, Pete, I'm not educated enough today to talk about it.
That's fine.
But I just want to tell you, that's my concerns about increasing it every year.
The only thing that we have given up in the past year has been juvenile court. And as I pointed out, and I've been pointing out for years, I am so short-staffed across this entire circuit that I have given up juvenile court in every one of the counties. We don't do juvenile court in Troop, Coweta, Carroll, Heard, or Meriwether. We just don't have enough staff. I really don't have enough staff to even handle the felony cases that we're handling. Now, last year there was a big misunderstanding between the prior county manager and myself, that when Judge Rasnick was sworn in as a sitting state court judge, and he would handle misdemeanors for the Superior Court, I was asked, does that increase your caseload? And I pointed out, it doesn't increase my caseload because I'm obligated by law to do misdemeanors. I have to do misdemeanors. What it does do is, instead of Robert and Sarah being in one court, now the judges handle Superior Court felonies, and Judge Rasnick has a different calendar with state court misdemeanors and also state court, he has a hearing or state court jury trials. Robert has to cover those too. So, you know, even though y'all added a state court judge and you may have increased his salary, I don't know if you did or not. The fact of the matter is, I had to cover those in the past with a Superior Court judge coming in here that you didn't have to cover his salary other than his supplement. But Robert is now spread between two courts. And I think that increase may be attributed to me when in reality it should not be attributed to me. And I told the county manager then, I said, listen, I understand what the commissioners are doing. I really understand what the Superior Court judges are doing. This takes misdemeanors off their calendars. I understand that. It's the same amount of work for me. And I'm shorthanded. I'm shorthanded in every county in this circuit. And what I need to do, and I'll do this for you, I'll send this information to Mr. Gregory. I'll just give you an example off the top of my head. Douglas County is a one-county circuit. Douglas County has a population of about 130,000. I'm a five-county circuit. We have a population of about 350,000. I have 19 prosecutors to cover the fifth highest felony docketed caseload in the state. 19. Douglas County has, for one county, where's it? How much is Douglas County has for one county 18 lawyers for one county. and he doesn't do juvenile court, and he doesn't do state court. I do state court not only in Heard County, but in Meriwether County as well. But I appreciate your frankness every time, and I don't want you to think that because you ask the tough questions that somehow that affects our relationship.
I just feel like it needs to be justified to the people in this county. as to
Absolutely.
Why, so that's why I asked.
I will send you this information about where we rank. We are one of the smallest staffed offices in the state of Georgia. That's not y'all's fault.
I would say, what do we do about that?
Well, Mr. Gay and I have talked about this before. That's not y'all's fault. This circuit needs to be split. It needed to be split 5 years ago. We lost the ability to split it when Judge Lee left the bench because I think Judge Lee won. I don't think it's going to be split now anytime soon because what it takes to split a circuit is all the Superior Court judges have to agree. Then they go to their local legislators. The local legislators will then ask for the administrative office of the courts. Thank you, Mr. Gray. The local legislators will then ask the administrative office of the courts to conduct a study. That study will indicate how the circuit should be split. Then it goes to the legislature, and of course there's a budget number that goes with it because you have to create a new DA's office and you have to create a new public defender's office. But when you do that, when you split the circuit like that, it takes the burden off the counties because the state picks up a larger percentage of the circuit. And so, and Mr. Gay can attest to this, I have been talking about and preaching splitting the circuit now for the past 5 years. But it's not going to happen because our judges don't want to split. You can't get all the legislators on board to ask for that study, even though we did ask for an unofficial study last year, or the year before last. And when the legislature sees it, it's going to cost $1 to $2 million to split the circuit and create a new DA's office and a new public defender's office. Given the financial climate of the state right now, it's just not going to happen. But there are a lot of one-county circuits. Paulding County, one-county circuit, 145,000 people. Paulding County, one county circuit, 16 prosecutors from one county. Again, 19 for 5. So yes, my budget's gone up, but I'm just treading water. And this is the first year, and I sent a letter to some of the commissioners saying, I don't know that we can keep up this pace. I don't know that I can keep people on the road like that. Really, I understand $197,000 to a county of this size is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I understand that. But until the state gets involved and splits the circuit, I have no recourse but to come to you guys to make up what I can't do. And I haven't even asked for additional people from the smaller counties. When Troup County came to me and Coweta County came to me and said, can you do a juvenile court prosecutor? I said, yes, I can, but it's going to take an additional assistant DA and an additional administrator or investigator. Coweta said, we can't do that. We'll give it to the solicitor. This year, the solicitor in Coweta County has opted out because she can't afford to do it, and she doesn't have the personnel. It's a huge problem. This is not the way to fund a state office by the state giving us a 30% of the budget and then me going to the counties and asking for the 70%. That's what it comes down to. State funds about 30% of my total budget. All 5 counties here fund about 70% of the rest. And years ago when we had separate budgets and I had separate employees, I had 6 different personnel policies. I used to have a lot of hair. I used to look like Theron Gay. Try to manage 6 different personnel policies and 6 different ways to pay employees. It's a huge problem. But that's where we're at. Yes, Ms. Hines.
Madam Chair, I want to address. This is definitely not my expertise either, as far as the work that you do, but we appreciate what you're doing. And I need to study this a little bit more, but I have a question. And hopefully I'm wording this right. When Rasnick came on, the whole purpose was to expedite some of these cases,
Correct.
right? So if if we're expediting these cases, they're not taking as long to stay in. So doesn't that relieve some of the time of the DA to be doing this work?
No, ma'am.
So then if that's not the case, then some of these cases, can they be, what I want to say, rapid?
Like Muskogee County has a rapid resolution program.
Right. Could
For
we
the
have
easier
that?
cases.
Yeah. I mean, because you're saying we've added in, but he still have the same workload. The whole purpose was to reduce that workload, but apparently that's not actually happening?
It doesn't reduce my workload. It reduces the Superior Court judge's workload. It doesn't reduce my,
It doesn't reduce yours, okay. So the question I'm trying is how do we expedite to some of these cases that are not major cases? I mean, every case is an important case. You hear where I'm coming from?
I know
on this?
exactly what you're talking about. The whole beauty of having a state court and a state court solicitor's office is that when a case comes in, you can move that case through the court system.
Okay.
Absolutely. The only way you could do that is to add personnel, because this is a labor-intensive organization. You need somebody to look at the citation that police officer writes, to decide what charges to charge, to talk to that police officer to see, is that case worthy of prosecution? Can that case be negotiated? And then, if all that happens, you get it on the docket, and you have a prosecutor and a public defender, if the person needs a public defender, in court, so they can move that case rapidly. The problem is we've added a court, but we've done nothing over here to add personnel. And so Robert Peterkin, who was doing, at one time,
So what was the purpose of having two separate entities then? What are you saying to me is it hadn't changed at all? Your load is still the same. We are not expediting, it helps the judge out.
Yes.
I understand that part. But when we think about the fact that that individual stays in the jail longer because it takes longer to get to in front of a judge, so that puts more burden on the county because that's more burden on the sheriff department. So I guess just once again, it's just trying to have a bigger picture.
When you say you're not educated, you're perfectly educated. You hit the nail on the head. We used to have a superior court, and Robert would report to this superior court. And this superior court would come in whenever it would. Okay, so now we have a superior court. Robert still reports to that superior court, but now we have a state court over here. And the same man who's preparing all the felonies, and the same woman who's preparing all the felonies here in this court, is also running down to Heard County to work on their court. And I'll point this out. These are my two most experienced prosecutors. I have about 50% of my staff has 20 years or more. They're also, anytime I get appointed on a case in Columbus or Fayette County, I call on my seasoned people to go. Robert just came back prosecuting a police officer case out of Columbus. I had to send him to Columbus. State doesn't pick up any of that cost. Sarah, I've sent, both Robert and Sarah, I've sent to Fayette County to prosecute a child molestation case. That's kind of the exception to the rule. That doesn't happen that often. But what I'm saying is, the judges have lessened their burden. Superior Court judges no longer do misdemeanors here in Meriwether County. Judge Rasnick does. But the same two people are the same two people that are running to Superior Court, running to state court, answering questions that come in, working on case files that are being submitted that need to be prepared for a grand jury, because nothing gets done on felonies without a grand jury. And then these two people, too, are running down the road to Heard County to prepare those cases and also do misdemeanors in that court. Now, they don't have a state court down there because they don't have somebody they can swear in who's got a law license. Their probate judge is not a lawyer because they fall under that population. But I explained this, and Ms. Hines, this is a great question. I explained that to the previous county manager, and I explained to him. He called me twice, and twice I told him, I understand what the judges are doing. It's not going to help me, okay? It's not going to help me one bit. It's going to increase Robert's schedule, because now Robert has more courts to report to. Where we used to only have one court to report to, now we have two courts to report to. One other thing, and I forgot, it slipped my mind what I was going to say. This is what I was going to say. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to be candid with y'all. If Robert has a child molestation, or if Sarah has a child molestation, that case takes priority over speeding citation. That case takes priority over dumping trash on the side of the road. I have told them, and I've told all prosecutors, that includes the ones in Coweta County, that includes, guys, prioritize your cases. Crimes against women and children, homicides, gang cases all come at the top of the list. You need to move those cases, okay? Those are public welfare cases. Those need to be moved. So if Robert is stuck between two courts and he has a bunch of cases here to prepare, and that's what we do, the cases don't come in prepared, we prepare them for grand jury, we prepare them to file with the court. Nobody else does that. That's what we do. If Robert has a stack of cases here to prepare and a stack of misdemeanors here to prepare, he's going to work on these cases first, and then he's going to get to those cases next. And I hope y'all understand that's just how it's got to be. I've got victims sitting here waiting for a resolution. So that's what I try to move.
Yes, I have. Just a question, Madam Chair. Mr. Peter, I guess to get my hands around this just a little better, and I'm having your problem here too, I think I can't get my voice clear. This quasi-state court that we set up under Judge Rasnick, even though the caseload does not change for you, it does help us expedite the cases through the courts.
Yes, sir.
So there is a plus for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is a plus.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's only contingent that the paperwork is given to them early enough to do it, because you just stated you have to prioritize the case. So apparently Meriwether County has a lot of cases that are drug-related, gang-related, which means that's the highest priority. So let's say, and I'm just giving an example, let's say you've got 200 cases in a month, and out of those 200 cases, 175 of them are those high profile, which means you got to put the energy there. So those other cases, even though they can be expedited quickly through Judge Rasnick court, but he's not going to get the paperwork in time to do it.
But let me say this. A lot of those misdemeanor cases, Robert can simply pick up and do right in court that day. Okay? Because he's got that type of, he can pick up, Robert, Mom, come here and answer this question. Robert,
Do you hear where I'm coming from on this?
absolutely. And
Because
that's
you're
why I
just-
want to answer both questions. Robert can pick up and do a lot of those questions, a lot of those cases right then. So can Sarah. That's because they've got the experience and they can negotiate rather quickly. They know the value of a case. Where it gets complicated is if they want a jury trial. Go ahead and answer some of these questions.
Let me also add, on several occasions,
First of all, you can tell from Robert's accent he's not from Meriwether County.
I think you're very well familiar with that. I would just add that on several occasions, Judge Rasnick, and even sometimes the assistant public defenders, they have someone in jail and we can reach a resolution, we'll draft that case immediately and get it on the next calendar, whether it's the day of court or a couple of days before, to answer your question.
So they try to...
And Judge Rasnick has called and said, this person's been in jail, what do you know about this case? And then I'll call the public defender's office and we'll work out a resolution as quickly as possible.
So they try to expedite jail cases.
Right. So the ones that decide to go to court, to have that's the ones that can drag on and take longer, that normally in negotiations should not have gotten.
It just depends on the circumstances. Obviously, if someone wants a jury trial,
We have to.
you have to accommodate that. And the way Judge Rasnick has set up his court is that every month he has court. He'll have an arraignment every month. But as far as the jury trials are concerned, I believe he only has maybe 3 or 4 jury trial weeks spread out throughout the year.
Just as from you, Mr. Peter, as you've observed this process, Judge Rasnick Court is helping to expedite the cases then?
It helps to expedite the cases where individuals are in jail, which is extremely important. It moves cases, misdemeanor cases along, but it doesn't assist our caseload. It doesn't reduce our caseload.
So we shouldn't expect it to reduce your budgets, what you're trying to say, because we have
No, you
this
should not
up, so we
expect,
don't.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what I'm good.
And And I mean, it's obvious there's an issue about the whole circuit.
Yes, ma'am.
And perhaps what we need to do is get with the other commissions in these other counties in our circuit, and maybe as a group, we need to go to our legislators. And it is an election year, so maybe it's the time to try to put some pressure there, because the numbers, I don't know how anybody can look at those numbers and not see something needs to be done differently.
The numbers need to,
And, you know, while we were paying 8%, I'm grateful that the budget would be 5.9%. But you do have to remember, we are having to pick up the cost for the juvenile
yes,
stuff that you can't do. So while your total, yes, we may be paying a smaller amount percentage-wise, we do have the expenses of the juvenile that still goes in there. So our numbers really haven't changed percentage-wise.
That's correct.
Maybe just what we have to pay to
that's
your-
correct, and I should have pointed out, thank you very much.
But like I said, I think we need to do some work as a
Collective body.
with our people in our circuit and see if we can't do something differently there, because it's not fair to the citizens.
I don't think, and we just had a judge appointed, this will be our fourth judge in Carroll County. We have 4 Superior Court judges now from Carroll County, 2 from Coweta and 1 from Troop. You know, and I know the judges are opposed to splitting the circuit, and I've told the judges, I understand they're opposed. I'm not opposed. It will take, I think, some county commission, the circuit county commissioners coming together and asking our local legislators to do it. Splitting the circuit, Mr. Chairman, splitting the circuit is a political process. It's not always driven by numbers, and a lot of times it's driven by politics. Paulding County split from the Tallapoosa circuit was a political split.
Well, perhaps if some of those judges that don't want it split, if they had family members in need of services through the DA's office and it couldn't get handled because there wasn't enough people to do it, maybe they would see it a little differently. Maybe they need to think of it that way, you know?
I've had this conversation with the judges. I've been called into chambers by one judge and told under no uncertain terms will he support a split, and I said, well, that's fine, under no.
Do we have to have their, I mean, it would be helpful, I'm sure, if they supported it, but when it gets down to it, do we have to have their permission to do it?
Not necessarily. If you can get your local legislators.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay.
The issue, the concern that will be there is you have right now 5 counties,
Right.
6 judges, 7 judges, 4 from 1 county. So am I right, some of those would have to give up their judgeship?
I don't know how that would work there.
That could be a potential.
But couldn't they go to another district? Because we don't have any from Meriwether County, so they have to come here to preside, so.
Yeah. You could split the district where,
Again, political.
Judges,
come together.
as anybody who's been in government will tell you, judges are unique animals.
I would say this though, I believe if it did split, they would like it as well after they got up and running, because they don't have travel, they don't have other things that go along with having to cover a 5-county circuit.
I agree. I mean, I agree.
I have one other question, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
This is a lot of information, and thank you once again, both of you, for sharing this. But if we have questions later on, can we reach out to you? Because the thing about the 3% from the state increase, and then I would like to find out what is the average, if you can put it in time frame of prosecuting cases in Meriwether County, what does that percentage look like? These are some things that I would personally like to know. So once again, I think there's just need to be more dialogue, but as you just stated, Lee, this is more political than anything, but it is to some degree for us as Board of Commissioners, it's driven by the dollars.
Splitting the circuit's political. What we do is not. I
understand that, but I'm just saying at the end of the day,
yeah,
the dollar amount still falls on this board to make a decision, because this is an issue also public safety.
absolutely.
Because we're wanting to make sure that those who commit a crime in our county knows that they will be prosecuted.
Absolutely.
To the fullest of the law. On the other hand, we still have to look at how we're going to be able to afford to do that and do it in a way where it's effective
Absolutely.
for your office as well as our taxpayers.
Absolutely, and I can send you all that information. I can send you whatever information you need one of the things I will point out is statewide, we're one of the best offices, and once a case is filed with the DA's office, once it's filed, moving that case through the court system. Now, that comes from prosecutors pushing cases. But you will see, if you look at Robert's calendar, we don't have a lot of old cases on our calendar. Now, some circuits will take, 4 or 5 years to reach a homicide case. That's not that's not how we operate here. I think in Troup County, we have less than 170 cases. On the complete calendar, Coweta County, probably less than 200. See, now I'm kind of hurting myself because I have such a good staff. These people are so dedicated that I hate to brag, but I'm going to brag. These are some of the best prosecutors in the state of Georgia. And that's why we're called upon a lot of times to do different things. I'll also point out, if you look at Paul Howard down in Atlanta, you look at Paul Howard's major crime unit, all of those prosecutors, most of them were trained by us, by me, here, and sent there. The Attorney General Special Prosecutor, David McLaughlin. David was right here, a Meriwether County young man. He's now gone. The prosecutor prosecuting in Cobb County, the baby death case, Chuck Boring, trained here. Now he's in Atlanta. So I'm proud of my guys. I'm proud of everybody that we have. And I understand your concern about the dollars, but I'll also point out that, it takes dollars to run a court system, and it takes people. It's not like I can get a computer to do what Robert does or to do what Sarah does. I just can't. But I am open to any questions, and if come directly from you or through Mr. Gregory or Mr. Gay, and I'll answer the questions. I've tried to give you my stats and my numbers. I can provide more numbers for you and let you look at them. But I think the best thing is an open communication and transparency.
The only thing I would add is concerning some of these misdemeanor cases, and I know Ms. Henderson is aware of this, sometimes those cases, depending on the type of case, can take as long as a felony case. And I know Mr. Gay and Ms. Henderson have been familiar with the firearms range case. And I know he's been in court 1 or 2 days, and you have to come to court a day or two. And that's a misdemeanor case that has literally taken more than a week, and it still has not reached a resolution.
And that's the point that I wanted to get across. You stated earlier that you prioritize, but I know that we have cases that are misdemeanor that have taken, that's why I don't know what is the average time for a case. It still took a great deal of time. That's still very costly.
On that particular case?
No, we don't have to go in that particular case. We kind of,
Okay.
but you know where, the point I'm making is that there are misdemeanor cases that tend to last so much longer. That's why I want to know what is the average time for a case. Because you're saying to us, it doesn't make a difference. He still has to do the work, even though you have prioritized your different cases.
And when misdemeanors are appealed to Superior Court, that's another issue.
Okay. That's okay. I appreciate it.
Any other questions I can answer?
No, thank you for all the information.
Thank
We
you
do
very much.
appreciate it. And as far as to the board, I think we can talk about it if you want to, but I think it would be in our interest to ask Mr. Gay to make contact with the other counties in our district and see if we can't get some conversations started about whatever we need to do or try to do as far as this circuit.
Okay. That is, I agree, that's something that really should have happened, in my opinion, a long time ago.
Well, I want to add too, as a criminal defense attorney, I've worked with many different circuits and have encountered the most professional DAs in that circuit. I really have.
Thank you very much. Thank y'all, appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right, next, public defender.
I'm sorry, I was checking. Mr. Borlaug.
Hi, how are y'all?
Okay.
I'm Mary Ellen Simmons, for those of you who may not remember who I am. I'm the circuit public defender. Hey there.
How you doing?
Good to see ya.
Good to see you.
It's been a little while.
It has.
I know. I wanted to kind of explain to you where we are on our budget, and I had the chance to speak with Mr. Gregory and Mr. Gay yesterday on some questions. And our budget I want to kind of tell you, because you heard what he has as far as his staff and everything, I want to kind of tell you how our office works, for those of you that aren't familiar with our office. We have Ryan Fuller, who is our senior attorney. He's actually from this area. I'm sure a lot of y'all know him and his family. He does us a wonderful job. I actually want to tell you, I had a scare this week that a private attorney was trying to hire him away. And that would be a really sad day for Meriwether County if we lose him as a public defender here, because he works so well within this county with everybody. He's got his family in this county, and luckily I think we're keeping him. I've spoken to him, but you know, he does a wonderful job here. He's been here about going on 9 years, I believe. We also have another attorney, Kelly Henderson. I added him a little over a year ago. That is not paid for by the county. I opted to use one of my state positions. When we added the 7th judge, I opted to use that to put here. Now, he does also go to Heard County and help out in Heard County. The reason I put him in this situation is because having one attorney, if my attorney's out sick, I have one attorney in Heard and one attorney in Meriwether. If they're out sick, if they have a family emergency, as Ryan did earlier this year, things like that, it's good to have a backup person. But over and above that, we do juvenile cases. We do the juvenile delinquency cases here. And for anybody who's never experienced juvenile court, days can take a lot of time. They can truly take a lot of time. Previously, Meriwether County was paying 20% of a salary, splitting that with Troup County, so that you could share a juvenile attorney between Troup and Meriwether. Troup's juvenile caseload has exploded. There was no way we could continue splitting that. So you kind of got a break right there, because you're no longer paying that 20% of a juvenile salary. Because instead, what I did was bring in a state paid position that is shared between here and Heard County to help out. Ryan was carrying over about 480 cases at the time, which included juvenile, the misdemeanors, everything else. And quite honestly, with that caseload, for those of you that don't know the Southern Center of Human Rights, they love to sue counties that have too large of a caseload for their public defenders, as has happened down in Cordell. We were well over what we needed to be. I was not going to risk an issue coming into my circuit that we were not handling an adequate caseload for our job. So I did actually move Kelly, I hired Kelly to this area, and he has been here a little over a year now. You will notice on my budget, there is a new addition which shows a supplement for him. And I want to explain why. He is a state-funded position. He is state-funded. However, the county, under the Indigency Verification Act, actually collects not only attorney's fees that are ordered by the court, but also the $50 application fee that's ordered by the court. Those funds are actually collected and allowed to be retained by the county. So every time they go through the court system, especially in Superior Court, and Robert is very good, Robert's still here, and Sarah Tig, about making sure that the court orders attorney's fees. So those are collected by probation. Well, under this code section that's cited in my budget, 171252, technically, and this is an oversight on my part when I added him, just so you know that, and I'm trying to fix it now, is technically the person has to be funded in some means by the county to retain those funds that are being collected on the cases he's representing. I know that sounds convoluted, right? Did it make sense what I'm saying? So I did add in, and the way we deal with it in all our other counties is there's like a county supplement that's paid. If you notice, I put in $3,000, that's $250 a month. I was asked by Mr. Gregory yesterday if we could reduce that to a lower sum. Yes, you can. $250 is the minimum supplement I have for anybody in our circuit.
that gets a supplement, which isn't very many, but the ones that do. But I am willing to work with you guys on that, but we do have to put in some kind of supplement for him so that you can continue to retain those funds that are being collected. And I think that's really cheap for getting an attorney for here in the county, if you think about it. That's a whole lot less than the 20% that you were paying for sharing a juvenile attorney. In addition to my 2 attorneys, I do have Jeannie Kennedy is my administrative assistant here. She does a great job. We did not ask for a pay increase for her this year. I also have, and I want to go back up to Ryan. I did ask this year for a pay increase for Ryan Fuller. And let me tell you why. Our agency, the Georgia Public Defender Council, is on an initiative to reach pay parity with the district attorney's office, because and I don't begrudge anything of what the DAs earn, trust me, they earn every penny of what they get. But what has happened, because their agency has been around longer than ours, a lot of our people are paid significantly less than some of theirs, only because that's how the original system was set up. There is a state initiative on the state level, and I can tell you that our director is actually working with PAC, the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. We're working as a joint force to try and better all of that. Part of this has to do with me asking for the raise for Ryan and this is still below what the DA is making, and that's fine, and it's still a significant raise. I would just like a good faith showing of some amount that I can tell Ryan, we're moving in the right direction to get you on up closer to a pay parity. I did talk with them yesterday, and they said, can we make it less than the amount that you put in? Of course you can. Y'all are the commissioners. You can tell me, no, I don't get anything. However, I would ask that you consider doing something just to show, Ryan, that we are trying to move in that direction. I understand this year is a tight year for some different reasons. I just want you to understand why I was asking for that. We do have one investigator. He services Meriwether and Heard County. He is not based just here. He is a state-paid employee. He does not cost this county one penny. All of his mileage is paid for by the state. His salary is paid for by the state, everything else. So I've truly tried to make sure that this county is taken care of by using, because I understand y'all are a smaller county and don't have the amount of funds that some of the larger ones do. But at the same time, I want you to understand I'm using state-paid people to try and supplement. So I'm trying to keep my costs down for y'all as much as possible. That's the basis of why I was asking for the different parts. There is the increase, same thing Pete was talking about, there is an increase, I think around 3%, that is a state added increase that does have to be in there. And I can certainly submit a supplemental budget with any changes y'all want at any time if you just let me know what it is. To talk a little bit about the adding state court, I agree with Pete. It does help maybe in moving the cases. Our objective anyway is that if people are in jail, we're trying to get them out of jail. That's our job, right? Whether it's popular or not, we're supposed to be getting the people out of jail. So we work very good, I think, with Robert and Sarah, and they're always, both of them have a great open door policy that if we have a case that we know somebody's sitting in jail and it can be worked out for a plea, they pick up the phone and call each other and get it on the next available calendar. And I think that speaks highly of both of our offices, that they have such a great working relationship that they can do that. They're not waiting for a case to get indicted. Some of the larger counties, there's such a volume of cases, a lot of times it's having to wait till indictment. In your smaller counties, I think you can see, because you've got two people working with two people, you really can expedite cases a whole lot easier there. It is a priority of ours always to try and get people within the jails taken care of. However, the more we're in court, the less time we have to be out of the jail and see clients, and that's just the reality of it. But I do think that we work very well together on that. And I'll open it up for questions.
Basically, you have the increase for Mr. Fuller.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, with that increases the
amount of,
total with benefits and everything. I see that.
it does, yes, ma'am.
And then the $3,000 supplement for Mr. Henderson.
Yes, ma'am, and again, that some form of supplement does need to exist so that you can continue retaining those funds.
That's right.
Increase request of just a little over $14,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have any questions?
I think I do, Madam Chair. Ms. Simmons, there, when you were discussing the $3,000 supplement for Kelly Henderson, you obviously said that was negotiable, but you made a statement that we need something here in order to retain funds that are being collected. I'm not sure I understand that.
Okay, under the code section, and Mr. Gay is nodding on it, under the code section, under the Georgia Public Defender Council, there are certain things that can happen. One is, it's required that they pay a $50 application fee, unless that is waived by the court. That rarely is ever waived by the court. So there's a $50 application fee on each case that comes through our office. In addition to that, the court, the judge himself, can order attorney's fees to the county on behalf of our attorneys. A lot of times, and he's left now, but I want to say it's around about 500 on cases. That kind of changes because it can be collected on probation. There are times judges don't order the attorney's fees. If there's going to be jail time, they're not going to be ordering attorney's fees. But on ones that are probation cases, depending on the severity of the case, things like that, and also the ability of the client, the judges will order attorney's fees to be collected over the time of probation. But the way the code is written is that the county should only be entitled to those if the county pays for some portion of the attorney representing the client.
What percentage is that? I'm sorry.
What?
You said portion.
It just, any
Any
portion.
portion.
There is not a set
1%,
amount.
2%, whatever.
Yes, there is not a
So-
set amount. It's just there has to be something
And
in
that would
there.
be-
And I chose the 3,000 because, like I said, the lowest supplement I have, the highest supplement I have anywhere in the circuit is $750. The lowest I have is $250. So we're not talking about any per month. Nobody is making thousands of dollars off of supplements, I can assure you. But that was why I set it at the $3,000 to $250 a month, is just because that's the lowest supplement that we usually.
And that would be in specific for Kelly Henderson in the cases that he's involved with, whereas we wouldn't have that problem with Ryan Fuller.
Right,
We already
because
paid
Ryan
him.
Fuller, y'all already pay.
Right,
Y'all already pay him, so that's not an issue at all. As I said, my concern with Ryan is simply that he does earn still significantly less than the district attorneys. And I think that it's my job to try and fight for him to reach a parity with it. Because, I mean, our job is very difficult too, if you can imagine sometimes the things that we deal with. You know, we have one investigator, and that's it, to go out and investigate all of our cases. I can tell you, though, it is so well worth it. I know we're not the most popular of organizations. I know a lot of people don't like what we do. But I'm going to tell you very briefly a story. I had an attorney last week in Coweta that had a case. It was a failure to register for a sex offender case, and she got looking at it. And the case that was the underlying offense was a statutory rape from about 12, 13 years ago, before our system existed. And it was a hired attorney. And the client had pled to a 5 to serve 1, served a year in prison on a felony statutory rape. When we got the case, when she looked at it, that was an illegal sentence. What he should have been sentenced to was a misdemeanor. He should have never been in prison at all. he was eligible as a misdemeanor statutory rape and should have never been required to be on the sex offender registry. So she not only got that case dismissed, she got him off the registry. It was one of days where it was a 19-year-old with a 15-year-old, or 18-year-old with a 15-year-old that fell into the category of the misdemeanor statutory rape, but it was not well investigated. That's the reason our system is so great, is because we do nothing but this. This is what we live and breathe. And you have to live and breathe it because it's a very difficult job if you don't. But for those people that these situations happen to, you can only imagine what a difference we can make. But in addition to that, getting people through the system, okay, they've admitted to it, it's found on them. It's still, we've got to help them process through the system, make sure their rights are protected, and take care of their cases. If we aren't there and we're not capable of doing it because we don't have enough manpower or we don't have well-trained lawyers, it's going to stall out the system. That's the reality. My director said that he went to the legislature with a rope, and they kept saying, why are you carrying a rope? And he said, well, if the DAs have this much power to pull, but we only have this much power to pull, how far are you going to get? You're not. So, I mean, we are a very important, integral part of this program.
Just one question about that. Madam Chair, I do have a couple of questions. What is the total caseload that you all have in Meriwether County?
Oh, no.
And then secondly, with the new justice reform that's coming out, the state's rolling out, and
Yes.
that's a whole discussion all by itself. Is there anything in that reform that assists or help in the public defender area? Is there an element in there? I don't need a whole lot of detail, I just need to know, is there something
There
through
is-
this new reform that allows the public defender's office to use any of those federal dollars?
There will be some, not much, very honestly. Let me address caseload, and I don't have the exact caseload right in front of me. I sent out an operating report. If y'all haven't gotten it, I'll make sure y'all get it. We, I think, average right now around 485 cases a year. That, of course, includes juvenile. The ABA guidelines are 150 for felonies and 200 for misdemeanors per attorney. So you understand why I needed to add in that second lawyer, even though it was through state pay, because we were well in excess of the guidelines of what we ought to be doing. So we're really right there at the top of it. I mean, we are. We're usually around 400, 485 cases a year, which surprisingly, compared to Heard County, they usually have about 280 a year. I have no idea why that is, why there's more here when you would think those would be comparable counties, but there appears to be a lot more that we have to deal with here, and a whole lot more juvenile here. There's a whole lot more juvenile here than what there is in Heard County. We don't have a lot of juvenile cases in Heard County, but they have full days of court here for juvenile delinquency.
Any other questions? Thank you. We
Okay,
appreciate your
thank you, I
information.
appreciate it, and I'll wait to hear from you.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Next is the Health Department.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Connie Walton, and I think you probably have the information. We do not anticipate any significant changes for the upcoming year, so we are requesting the same amount as last year, the $152,500. To make it short and sweet, so are there any questions?
Any questions for the Health Department? Okay. Short and sweet it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Jean.
All right, Three Rivers, and I don't think anybody's here.
Mr. Boatright was supposed to be here, but they're not asking for any additional funds. They gave me an estimate of what they thought it would be at the 13,911 number.
Okay.
So
We may hear from them later, though, I mean.
So we can just
That's based on the unincorporated population.
Okay. Next, the library, Ms. Kilby.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Cindy Kilby. I'm the library director. I have brought one of my board members, Mr. Roosevelt Renner, with me, and he has some paperwork or some information that I wanted to give you all. I should have sent it out in the packet, and I did not. We are asking for an increase this year. It is 6%, which is less than $5,000. And I will explain why. The state government was giving us money for materials. And materials are books and audiovisual items, things like that. They were giving us that. They have slowly reduced the amounts that they were giving us. Last year, they did not give us any money at all for materials. This year, I've just found out we will be getting a little bit of money, which is good. But we desperately need this money because we have not been able to increase our book collection in several years. Our patrons are noticing that there's nothing new on the shelves, and they're upset by that. This money also goes to support the summer reading program. And the summer reading program, a lot of people think of that as just fun and games, and it is a lot of fun. But the whole point of the summer reading program is to get children to read during the summer. Because if they can retain their reading skills during the summer, when they go back to school in the fall, they do not have to relearn those skills. And then they can continue on with their education, they can build on that, and they aren't slowed down by having to relearn their reading skills. And I also want to tell you a little bit about the library and how we're being used. You know, we have computers at the Manchester Public Library and the Greenville Public Library. We have people coming in to use these computers to search for jobs, to create resumes, to fill out applications online to get these jobs. I also have people who have gone back to school and are earning degrees via distance learning, and they need to be able to take their exams. And they can come into the library because I'm a proctor, so they can come in and they can have their exams proctored through the library. And we have had several people who have graduated from college and earned college degrees through distance learning by being able to come into the library and use our computers. So that is making a huge difference. We've also partnered with the Meriwether County Extension Service to do some gardening programs at both of our libraries, and those have been quite popular. And to go back to the summer reading program, I have a little boy.
Excuse me just a minute. Can we keep the conversation to a minimum out there, please? Thank you. Okay.
We have a little boy who comes in every year. We've been several years in a row now. We've had a gentleman come in and do a snake show for us during the summer reading program. And we've had him year after year, even though he's rather expensive. We have him year after year because he is so popular, and we get a large crowd of people in there. And as a result of that, I have a little boy who has announced that he wants to not only become a snake catcher, but he went to the trouble of finding out what a person who studies reptiles does, and that's a herpetologist. And he's decided he wants to become a herpetologist. And I thought that was wonderful. Are there any questions that you have for me?
And I just probably don't know this, I'm asking. So there's only 2 libraries that you all serve?
No, we serve Meriwether, Talbot, Taylor, and Upson counties. So we serve 4 counties. In Meriwether County, we serve Manchester and Greenville, those 2 libraries.
All right, so this increase is just for those?
It's for those 2 libraries. I will approach other counties for their money.
All right, well, sure. Sorry. Definitely, they don't want to pay for
Yes,
us.
we're not going to ask you to pay for them.
Yeah, I understand that.
No.
And how many, when you're saying the computers, how many computers do you all have?
We have, at the Greenville Library, we have 6, and at the Manchester Library, probably 16 or 17 public use computers. And we limit people, you can have 2 hours total on the computers per day. And we still wind up sometimes with people waiting to use the computers.
So you need more computers as well?
Yeah, we really do.
The thing I wanted to ask is your hours. I noticed the hours were changed
Right.
in Greenville.
Right. And in Manchester as well. The hours had to be reduced several years ago because funding was reduced, so we had to reduce the hours. I would like eventually to be able to add the hours back, but I just became director in July, so I've got
Congratulations.
thank you. I've got several things that I am working on, but that is something that I would like to do, is to increase those hours again.
The reason I brought that up is simply because, as you stated earlier, and did such a good job, is a lot of people use these facilities for resource because accessibility in certain areas of the county, you just don't get good internet service.
Right, and
So
a
the
lot of people can't
libraries use
afford
a lot, and a lot of them can't afford it. So when you talk about applying for jobs online, the accessibility to a library is very crucial. So that, the reason I wanted to ask is because the hours had changed so drastically over the past year or so. So
Right.
I needed to know this But this increase is only for materials, it doesn't do
Right now.
anything.
It's not gonna help with hours, it's not enough to help with hours, it's gonna help with materials, and it will help some with the summer reading program. Next year, I would like to ask to see if we can get an increase. But right now, this is what I wanted to focus on, because the material budget had been so drastically reduced over the years. We need to be able to increase that, because a lot of people rely on us for books. They can't afford to go out and buy their own. A lot of people are able to, but a lot of people can't, so they do come to us for that.
And is the BOE contributing to your budget?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They do. They do. And it helps a great deal.
What's your total budget?
Our total budget, and I can tell you that, hold on just a moment. For Meriwether County, the total budget is about $192,000. Well, no, actually, I'm sorry, about $193,000.
193, I'm sorry, 193,000?
About $193,000, yes.
And how many employees do you have?
At Greenville, we have 2, and at Manchester Public Library, I'm going to have to count. I think we have about 5 at the Manchester Public Library.
And once again, what percentage does the state pay you?
The state, the only thing the state contributes to the local libraries is some materials money. Now, the state pays my salary. We receive a grant, and the state pays for my salary. But all of our employees that work in the public libraries are locally paid.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a program where I know you would need to screen them and be sure the condition's good, but what if someone wanted to donate books to the library?
Oh, yes, they do that all the time.
They do, okay.
And what we do, if it is something that we can use in the collection, if it's new enough that we can use in the collection, we're going to add it to the collection.
Right.
Now, if it's a 10-year-old John Grisham book, we really don't have a need for that on the shelves most of the time. What we can do is we can sell those to raise money, and then that money in turn goes back into the book budget.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of books.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
That-
sell them, I'm sure.
Right.
That should.
But
could
right,
help.
yeah, just come on by. We'll be glad to take them. Do you have any
All right, any other
questions that I
questions?
can answer? All right.
Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you.
All right, next will be our county agent, Ms. James, or Mr. Morgan, I wasn't sure who was.
I did ask for an increase this year, 2% on my contract employees. The county gave a 2% increase last year to the county employees, and I asked for that 2% to be reflected in the contract employees because they did not qualify for that raise under the county. Currently, the county funds about 40% of their salaries, or 40% of our budget, so they would only be paid on the county portion. With that, everything else was the same. With that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Your fiscal year ends June the 30th, I think you're telling us.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Steve, you're going to need this MOU executed as well going forward,
And the contract,
and the contract, okay.
if possible,
Okay.
to avoid any interruption of pay.
That May 24th approval date will give you time.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else. Thank you, we appreciate it. All right, next will be State Forestry, Mr. Menson.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Got some new faces up here since the last time I was here. Derek, how are you doing?
Fine, buddy. How about you?
Good. My name's Jeff Mansour, for those that I have not met before.
Good to meet you.
Gave y'all copies of the annual report. I'm not asking for any more money.
Well,
It's, if you're not familiar with what your 10 cents per acre covers, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. You got a list of all the equipment that's here. We've probably got some of the nicest equipment of any county unit in the state. We participate in almost 50% of the prescribed burning that goes on in the county. It was a wet year last year. We only had 18 wildfires. We have a really good working relationship with the county fire department as well as the city fire departments. We've got about 35 pieces of RFD equipment in the county that we help keep up. We have a firefighter protection, or firefighter surplus program to where we try to help the county obtain equipment for $100. And after 1 year, it's theirs. And that can be anything from a frontline tanker truck, a frontline ladder truck that's a $500,000 piece of equipment. They get it for $100. We have been talking with Sandy and Chief Tucker about this for a while. The biggest problem that they have is they don't have anywhere to store it. So I made a recommendation to Sandy a while back that, use your SPOS money for buildings instead of equipment. And then you can put equipment in there for $100. So, but anyway, if you guys have any questions, I'll be free to answer them, or feel free to ask, and I'll do the best I can to answer them.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Well, just a comment. I noticed the previous year, 3,227 wildfires in Georgia with only a total of 14,000 acres being burned.
Yes, sir.
What do y'all attribute that success to? You must get there rather rapidly.
Well, we try to keep our burned acres under 5 acres per fire. And, being when it's wet, the fires move a lot slower. So, of course, your burned acres are going to be lower. Now, if it was a dry year like 2007 or 2011, sometimes those acres can get up to 7, 8, 10 acres of fire.
Does prescribed burning contribute to this low acreage?
Absolutely. I get asked all the time when I do presentations, or we do a lot of wildlife shows, buckaramas and things like that. People ask all the time, why do they have the fires out west that they don't have in the eastern part of the country, or specifically the southeast? One of the reasons is because the southeastern United States has the best prescribed burn program in the world. And we burn about 2.5 million acres a year prescribed, which cuts down drastically on wildfires. They have taken burning out of the equation west of the Mississippi River, partly because the majority of the land is owned by the federal government out there, whereas the majority of the land east of the Mississippi is owned by private landowners. And private landowners are much better stewards of their land than the federal government is.
IQ is a lot higher on the east of Mississippi. Yeah, that was all, just a comment.
And one thing concerning prescribed burning, since you did bring that up, we do the best we can to try to manage our smoke. Sometimes we may smoke out a house or a road for a short period of time. It is not intentional, but I can promise you that the benefits of that smoke for a day or two is a lot better than having your house burned down when that tract next door to you did not get burned professionally and was burned by a wildfire when you were at work. You came home to ashes.
Just an additional question. Aren't they finding out west that things are supposed to burn
Oh, absolutely.
periodically?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But, it takes the federal government a little bit longer to find things out.
We understand.
We won't quote you on that.
That's okay.
I will.
And I've got some additional color copies if y'all
Thank
would
you.
like them, but no more questions.
Any others? Thank you. Appreciate
We
it.
appreciate y'all's support.
Thank you.
Look forward to doing it again next year.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Beth.
Good to see you.
Next, we have Welcome Center. I guess we can do Welcome Center and Tourism together. That'll be Carolyn.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. As I mentioned to you all a few months ago, in the evolution of our tourism, we have reached a plateau, meaning that we have pretty much exhausted things in the county that we can just do a little fine tuning and polishing and take to the market, like the Red Oak Bridge and Flint River, adding picnic tables and so forth. All of those are kind of relatively easy. The plateau we're now reaching is that in order to continue to look at additional avenues for promoting tourism, we have to put out new products. And we are looking for products that we still can do with smaller amounts of cost. As you know, we have the Lake Meriwether project that we're working on with the trying to turn that into a recreational park. We also have a number of other products, but in reaching this plateau, I'm also realizing that this is a whole new ballgame for our county. We will now, it's not just the money, but it's also a requirement for additional folks to come on board, both from a perspective of what do we need to do to get this project underway, but also whose permission do we need? What kind of obstacles are we going to encounter? And it is also requiring that we do a better job of educating our cities, our city leaders on the value of tourism. So I'm trying to make rounds now to talk to each of our city councils about the economic value of tourism and promoting the idea that in order for your city to be tourist ready, then there's some things that you might need to look at. For example, if we're going to try to bring more tourists into Luthersville, are there places to park? Are there places to eat? Are there places for people to go to the restroom? So those are the kinds of things that the cities need to get on board with, or that I'm encouraging them to get on board. And I'm not saying they're not, it's just some of this is an educational process. However, getting to the budget, what you have before you is primarily product development requests. We are working on our geocache in Woodbury, as you know, that we got grant funding for. What we realized in working on that is that geocache is not extremely expensive and could be put in every city. But again, the cities will need to say, yes, we want a geocache in our city, and we're willing to help you put that together. But, for example, I think Manchester could do a great railroad geocache. I think Greenville can do a great historic homes and historic structures geocache. I think a gold mine in Lone Oak would be a great attraction, and maybe in Luthersville, the Civil War kinds of emphasis. So each of our cities has a unique niche, which is what our murals are also representing. I spoke to our geocache guru, and I asked him, I said, you know, I don't want to saturate the market with geocache. And he said, well, what you're doing is something that no other community has done, which is looking at cities' totality, but each of them has a separate niche. So that's the goal that I want to have is a geocache in each city. But again, we have to make sure the cities are welcoming that. And this is why one of the reasons I want to put in a plug for you all to proceed with your meeting with all the cities. I know y'all have talked about that, but I want to help them to understand the importance of this and what we need from them. So the geocache is one of the recommendations. Same thing with Butterfly Gardens. Ms. Susan has been an extreme assistance, guru, consultant, and digger. Hard digger. I mean, this lady knows how to swing a mallet. Isn't that what you call that thing? Okay. Anyway, our goal is to put one in every city, but as we think about putting a butterfly garden in Greenville, for example, is somebody there that's willing to water it and pull weeds? You know, is somebody there in Lone Oak willing to take care of that garden once we get it installed? So we got to have some more people to get on board about why this matters to our community. But that's our second goal is butterfly gardens. I also want to capitalize on social media. We have the mobile app for the historic homes tour in Greenville. I want to do one for the mural trail, mural and monarch trail, the geocache trail, and we can get those done for about $600 each. But then we have to pay the hosting fees every month, so that's another fee. Lodging analysis, I think we've recognized in our tourism team recommended to us that we do need more lodging in the county. That certainly would bring in a lot of hotel-motel tax as well as keeping our tourists in the county rather than having them go elsewhere to lodge. The tourism product development grants that funded our butterfly gardens and geocache and murals has now jumped up to $10,000 rather than $5,000. But a $10,000 still requires a 40% match, which in this case represents about $4 grand. What I want to do is, and I know Chairman Hadley, I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago about using some of those funds to do a lodging analysis, where they would come in, take a look at the whole county, make sure that we have the traffic that would support lodging, and where would the best place be for that lodging. Now, one of the things I've discovered is that, as you know, we collect hotel-motel tax. We've been using that I've been holding on to most of that because we can use it for tourism promotions, rack cards, signage, things like that. We cannot use it for match for product development. Now, there is another hotel motel tax ordinance that does allow you to do that. And I'm going to be doing some more research on that, and maybe talking to you, Mr. Gay, and Ms. Susan about either, I don't know if it's adding an ordinance or converting our ordinance. Right now, it's exclusive to promotions of tourism activities. I want to use a different ordinance, or see if we can get a different ordinance that allows us to use that for tourism product development activities. If we can, then that will help us to be able to really make better use of those funds. And many other communities have done this, and it sounds like it's not too hard to do, it's just switching the ordinance. So anyway, but right now I'm putting in a request to do that matching for that study. I've also talked to our tourism folks in Atlanta. They are recommending that, or suggesting that we might be able to get a large industry like a Georgia Power to do that study on our behalf. So they're looking into that. If that's the case, then we will need to use grant funds for that. But right now we're holding.
Carolyn, one thing on that lodging grant that we need to mention, what they told us in our meeting too was that is what a lot of these hotel chains and all will use before they ever make the decision to come.
Right.
If we want to get another Best Western or anything like that, this might be the thing
gotta
too
have
that
it.
will help
That's
give
right.
them the information before they can make the decision to
That's right.
invest those dollars here.
Exactly.
Madam Chair, I have a question. I'm just going to address this, Carol. On that lodging analysis, there is a grant to do that, but we have to do a certain percentage of that?
Well, right now,
Whereas
all those
40%.
grants require 40% match.
Is that 40%, can that be in kind, or can that
No,
be?
there's another 60% of in-kind that is also required. And see, like on the butterfly garden, all of Susan's expertise is counted as in-kind. And so I'm not sure what we can come up with as far as lodging in-kind, but, you know, I'm still hopeful that the state of Georgia will say, yes, we can get Georgia Power to do that for y'all. But that's a question I don't know the answer to.
As far as doing the analysis
Yeah.
altogether?
And
Right.
we wouldn't have to pay anything.
Exactly. That's what they
You got
told us.
somebody on your board.
I know, I mentioned this to him the other day. I said, we need you, Kevin. And then the other thing is the production of some of the rack cards and other things that we need in order to do promotions. Now, this is all product development. It does represent, I think, about $600 more than we received last year. My long-term goal, and this is especially true if we can convert that ordinance so that I can use hotel motel tax, which has basically been, you know, it's accumulating, which is great because we never want to be in the same position we were in a few years ago with not, you know, having to close down the doors because we don't have enough money. But if we can use that, then that gives us some more latitude with those funds. We're also looking at what else can we do that brings in money to our tourism pot, and our Beaches of the Pines is one of our best shots. And we made $700 profit last year, which we thought, oh, that's great. We didn't have to go in the hole on that. But then we have a person that really sent to us, and she said, oh, $700, you should be shooting for $30,000. And I said, whoo, that's a big jump. But anyway, she is convinced that we can do that, but you got to build it over time.
Yeah.
But my point to you all is that I'm hopeful for a day when I can come and say, we don't need any money from the county. We're self-sufficient now. That would be a great day, and that's the goal. But now we're not there yet. But I do
I'm
want
gonna say, it's gonna have to come in steps.
It is. And I wanted to let you know, though, that we've got a lot of other products that we're working on that don't require funds. We met this week with a group, a tri-regional group that's working on a Walker Stalker Trail, which would be is capitalizing on Walking Dead and Vampire Diaries. And so the state of Georgia is going to put in funds to help support that cause. But Woodbury will have its own panel in there in the brochure. So we're definitely going to get some more traffic in Woodbury. We're working with the city of Warm Springs on a development plan for their downtown area. Woodbury is trying to figure out what they can do. This is another thing, though, that while we need the cities to be as unified as we can hope for, and as unified as we can get them, Woodbury, Warm Springs has just put up some new signage, and now Woodbury wants to do some signage. Manchester just put up some other signs, welcome to Manchester, but there's no unified look to our community, and we really need that. If we're gonna say we want Meriwether County to be a tourism destination of choice, then we gotta look like we're somewhat unified, and we're not there yet. But we're working on that. So I just want you to know there's a lot of other work we're doing. Just this weekend, we took the display up to the Hot Pig and Bear. Larry Dunaway manned that thing. Christy Stevens worked with us. Bruce O'Neill drove the shuttle. Took a lot of people down to the Red Oak Bridge. But just a simple thing, in our display, we had it so beautifully presented visually. And as a result of the display, Linda Wilbur called and said she had had traffic all afternoon. People saw the stuff at the Cotton Pig and Fair, came to her shop and made at least 3 large purchases. And she said next year she's going to stay open on Sunday so she can get that traffic. But tourism brings dollars. That is our bottom line. And I know when I talked to Ms. Glover in her city, you know, we were talking about budget issues and budget challenges, and I said, you know, this is a good way and a quick way and a relatively easy way. It takes a lot of hard work, but it can be done easier than perhaps trying to bring in, you know, new shops and new businesses into the area. So anyway, that's where we are from tourism. I appreciate what y'all have done. I appreciate your support more than you can know. I go to other places and they say, boy, you have real good support from your commissioners. I wish we had that. So we are the envy as far as our support that we get from you all, and I am very, very grateful and very humble for that support. And I'll be glad to answer questions if I can.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, once you know, this is one of my personal pet peeves, and I think the work that you're doing and your group is just superb. Under the circumstances, I think you all have done a great job. I appreciate the fact that you have also looked outside as far as funding from grants and every opportunity. So kudos to your group. Once again, I do think it's important that the Board of Commissioners and the cities do have some kind of dialogue or retreat, because I don't think they fully understand the impact tourism brings to a city and a county of our nature without so much infrastructure that we don't have. So once again, just educating not only the elected officials in our county, but even some of our citizens, because one of the things that I really would like everyone to understand, once individuals come into the county, they have to have a good experience. And if they don't have a good experience, they're not going to come back. And you know, the chairman and I have gone to several meetings around the filming industry, and the one thing they keep saying is that if you get a company to come and they like and have a good experience, they'll keep coming back, keep coming back. And as Ron has already mentioned, we already have a filming group in the county already. We need to capitalize on this, because this is revenue, sales dollars that the county can get. Because as everybody heard today, everybody with the exception of 1 or 2 has come for increase. And the only way we're going to be able to meet these needs, or we're going to have to get more sales dollars, tax dollars, hotel revenue, which allows us to be able to provide some of these services. So that dialogue of understanding the impact of how tourism can be in this county is just phenomenal. So once again, I thank you for all the hard work that your group is doing, and
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Miss Carolyn,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just making an observation or a statement now, and it's concerning the butterfly gardens. I think my concern is because this is a living organism that you're asking, or that we're asking for it to be placed. Just recently visiting the Hatchery, and of course they started their butterfly garden well over a year ago. They've already encountered problems, and there is a need to do replanting in Pond 13, and they have got the big observation deck, they've got the interpretive signs and things like that. First off, I'd like to see us at least make that part of the butterfly trail, because it's already established. It's
Right,
in
I did
place.
speak with them about that.
Good.
Yeah, they said sure, they would be glad to be part of that.
The other thing is, because we're working with cities, I would like to see that some type of cooperative agreement in place between the cities and the county, tourism or whoever, that you outline who's responsible for maintenance and upkeep? Because you're talking about a long-range plan.
Correct.
And because, there's a thought, I think, in a common misconception is you can put it in the ground, plant it, and it's going to take care of itself. But then in drought years, who's going to water? Who's going to keep it maintained or upkeep? And that's asking a lot for Ms. James to, to not only plant, but I think we need to outline who's responsible for long-range planning.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I do agree with you 100% because even Ms. Susan and I have had some conversation about that, and it would be an inappropriate imposition to expect her to do the maintenance. Now, we've spoken to the Merriweather Garden Club, and they're very willing to help. Now, what that help looks like, and does it apply to the city, I don't know at this point. But you are correct in that there's no need to plant a butterfly garden if there's nobody there that's going to be willing to maintain it. I can't help but be optimistic, though, that when we talk about a countywide butterfly trail that's attached to our countywide murals, and knowing how beautiful butterflies are and how beautiful the butterfly garden would be, that somebody would not want to that's going to elevate the sense of pride in our community and want to maintain that. Maybe I'm wrong, but, I just know that a butterfly garden is a beautiful thing, and if tourists are going to come and look at your butterfly garden and have a chance to understand the life cycle of the butterflies and why this is so important, not just for its beauty, that we wouldn't have people that would be willing to step up to the plate. And that's the thing, though, what you're hitting on is a very important point, Ms. Rosela, because you're hitting on the sense that if we are, as a county, going to embrace tourism, then a lot of people have to be willing to be part of that embrace.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think the thing that I want to comment, because there was a discussion about the butterfly garden in one of my districts, and it's always priority. They did not see the priority in this. We've got other issues. Yes, we do. But part of the issues we have is not having enough revenue to do the things that we need to do. So I would think this board, and what I'm hearing from this board, is we are willing to work with those individuals to help bring revenue into the county. And we know that tourism is one of those things where, as the chairman has said, you don't have to put them in your school district. They just come and spend money. And
They're not going to put another burden on our court system.
On our court system. So I think once again, educating the community as a whole on how tourism impacts your community as far as the sales dollars and things of that nature. I could be wrong. I still don't think people realize the impact. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Warm Springs. I think it was Administrative Day. We were there. 4 or 5 bus loads of people came in the Buller House?
Well, the last time we had our meeting, and we put out, there was four buses, and they were not connected to each other. There were 4 different busloads of people come in.
And then the ones who left eating at the Buller House came over to the Welcome Center. So, there are people coming into our county. They're just wanting to know what to do, where to go. And having more things that's attractive for them is just more sales dollars for us. So hopefully we can get people to understand that impact.
Thank you.
One other thing, I'm sorry. On the geocache, having addressed this probably 10, 12 years ago, I'm not sure if I have a clear understanding on liability issues. Now, when we would actually install geocache as an entity, what liability would the county hold as far as, and the concern is, and I can give you a little history. I was first made aware of geocache working with a little White House probably 10, 12 years ago. And the concern that the state had at that time was that the liability issues involving unknown geocaching, and say someone, goes in search of it, they get injured because it's been placed in a very dangerous, especially at state parks, where it may be on the side of a mountain or whatever. And say somebody falls, then who's responsible for it? And I know it's developed over the course of the years, and I do know that geocaching has been placed in unknown spots, because we were advised at the hatchery when I was still working several years ago that there was one placed, and it was in a not-so-safe location. So my question, and this is just food for thought, that when the county embraces that we're actually going to go out and promote geocaching, who's liable for any kind of accidents or anything like that? There again, Ms. Henderson can probably allude to that.
that's
But it's just to bring it, that's to put it on the table. That's not to say that we address it, but at the same time, this goes back to your cooperative agreements between your cities and your county, and then if we're going to embrace this, then what do we do about it?
Right, and I
And
think,
one last thing, and I'm sorry, the passport for the courthouse, I think is a fantastic idea, because I do know that we do have tourists that are coming into the county because of the need for the courthouse. There again, we probably need to go ahead and identify, if the stamp is located in the courthouse, what office would be responsible, and then the hours of operation. And there again, you would assume that most people visiting courthouses in order to gain entrance would have to be a Monday through Friday. Do we need to identify that up front? And there again, I'm sure Economic Development and ACCG will probably be working on that, but that's just my concern, that you've got to have access to the stamp, and it's got to be in one central location.
and,
So,
yes, and they have spelled out what the county is responsible for in this document I received the other day, so, and that's, I haven't had a chance to thoroughly absorb all this, but we will be talking about it in our meeting, and this is not ready, this is gonna be launched, I think, sometime in the fall. So we've got some time to get ready, but again, it's an opportunity that we can't afford to miss out on, but we need to be ready.
Right.
Take advantage of their promotion.
we need to have the dialogue with our court employees,
Yes.
that whoever's there, that who's going to be the designated contact person for the one stamp, because you're not going to want multiple stamps in multiple locations.
And let's assume that, maybe one employee thinks this is a great idea, and I'd love to be a part of stamping somebody's passport. The next employee says, I don't want to fool with that.
Exactly.
How do you get them on board? The liability issue on geocache, we have not talked about. It's an excellent point. I do know that there are geocaches all over our county already. I guess the question becomes, if you start promoting it under the auspices of an official body, does that introduce a different liability issue?
Certainly to look into that, because it would be impossible to get waivers signed.
Yeah.
Could you put a disclaimer into the
Yeah,
advertisement?
put a disclaimer in it, and can we find out what other counties or
Counties have
other states have something similar? So
Right.
if there is something out there, we can go and look and see what's being put in place, just like when we've got the film ordinance, we went and did our due diligence to see what was out there. Because if it's a successful program and someone else is doing it in a successful way, we just may need to look at and see what they're doing. We don't want to spend so much time, you can always find good and bad and everything, and why you shouldn't do it.
Right.
I know Muskogee County doesn't endorse it. Do you know of any other counties that actually endorse?
I know when I go online, I see communities endorsing advertising their geocache trails all over the place.
I'll take a look at it.
In fact, that's really why we started doing this. It's become such a growing trend to not just have the geocache, but put it in some sort of trail theme. So yes, they are embracing it. Now, whether it falls under their rec department or tourism or county government, I don't know, but it does introduce a liability question, so.
I'll look into it.
Thank you.
I'm going to get a seat of my britches have, so.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
All right, next we have pathways. Oh, did I skip one?
We skip
Or-
one.
Oh, I'm sorry, airport
We put the
authority.
airport authority on there just as,
Well, I didn't see anybody here.
there's nobody here, a point of reference for the future, if you're
Go
fine.
ahead, stay right where you are.
For the future, they're not asking for any funding
Okay.
directly, so to speak, but in the future, that might be the case, so we went ahead and put them on the list.
And I'll give you guys an update when we get later in the agenda where all of the airport stuff stands.
And before you start, on the teen maze, with the Wednesday meeting, June 8th, be okay for you guys to come and present that? We'll put you on the agenda for that. We would talk about it now, but I hadn't provided the information to the board as yet. Okay.
We still got a
Thank you.
ways to go.
I'm going to try to make it brief for you. I'm part of the small majority that's not asking for any increase this year.
Oh, great.
My name's Lucy Ferguson. I'm one of the administrators for Pathways. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with what Pathways provides, mental health, DD, and substance abuse services for our county residents.
I worked for
Last
them
year-
years ago.
Okay, so you're familiar with this then. Last year, we served just under 1,000 individual citizens, but of course, we have multiple contacts with each of them. For us to maintain our confirmatory status with the state and the federal funding that really provides probably 75% of our funding for those services, we need a contribution from.
The June line, once we get everything out and the things, we already know what we're going to do there. We're going to put in concrete pipe. We know everything. So it's a matter of getting all that stuff together. And then, once we get it going, once it's let, that's a quick project. We're going to pour some head walls. And I think, we looked at a creek yesterday that had head walls in place. And the water had flowed over the road during the rains. But if you were out there today, you wouldn't know it because the head walls held and it looked fine. So that is right.
Property owners think we still need to do something else.
Right.
They just don't know how fortunate they are.
That's true. That is true. So anyway, those are the timelines on those items. I am actually getting back with Chris Edmondson. I've been meaning to call him, but we just haven't been able to catch him. We'll try to call him this afternoon. We're going to have to deal with a right-of-way issue on one of the bridges. We're going to need additional right-of-way, probably from a construction standpoint, just an easement in order to be able to get the pipe in. The deeper you go in the creek, the further it takes to, from a work zone. So I will work with him, and I'll probably need to come back to you guys and talk about, contacting the property owners and things like that.
What's the right of way on that road now?
I think it's 60, and I think we're looking at an
You're gonna need
80-foot
at least
pipe.
80 foot?
Right. And I will get the details. Chris and I have not had a chance to talk. In fact, he's out of town today. I'm going to see him tomorrow at another event. They're having a groundbreaking tomorrow at the new interchange up in Newton. So they're going to start that Poplar Road. He will be there. Poplar Road, I-85. And he'll be there, and so will Mr. Welborn. So we're going to have some conversations tomorrow. So I will be there for that. Anyway, this is your timeline on what we're looking at for that. The bid proposals on the paving projects, we've written those. We've got them ready. I would, Susan, just to look at them. Are you okay with?
I'm okay with it.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, what we're going to do then is we're dropping those in the mail today. There will the advertisement will be in Friday's paper. We've identified 8 companies, 2 of them local, who may or may not be able to do it, but I'm going to send it to them anyway. And we're going to mail this out this afternoon. And then I think we have a June 3rd deadline for response. And then we'll have a bid opening at that time. We have another meeting, I think, on the 11th or 12th of June, I think it is. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
June 8th.
June
And
8th. And we open them on the 3rd, which is a Friday.
It'll be the next
And we'll
Wednesday.
have a recommendation for you guys to award that bid on the 8th, and we'll be ready to move forward with our payment. Okay? That's where that stands. LMIG for the Courthouse Square project, you guys saw that today.
Yes, we did.
I'm also going to work on getting the specs out on that as well, so when they say go, I'll be ready to send those out as well. Airport, we've completed the agreement with the former engineering company, moving forward with a new engineering company. We've submitted, requests for GDOT funds. The airport layout plan is complete. They're in the process of writing us the final check on that. I also made application for the contract for the taxiway project. And I made that application, and then they expedited the contract. This is a contract. Beverly and I worked yesterday on getting the airport authority folks to sign this. We just got to go back now and be sure we've got everything filled out in terms of tax ID numbers. This too will go in the mail to GDOT, and this whole project, this is a contract for $142,000. So we'll be getting that, and that's only going to, then leave about $15,700 as a local match for the airport authority. And so that's all moving forward. There will be some more projects. They're going to want to do the state's going to want us to do a construction clearance project, and I'll bring you more information back to you guys on that. But this would should close out all of that issue. CSX.
Oh, great.
Good news.
Good news.
Talked this morning with Craig Camuso and I played phone tag. They're having a big conference in Atlanta this week. But anyway, talked to them this morning on the way in. We're going to get together, excuse me, on a conference call next Tuesday. And what I want with a conference call is Greg, myself, anybody who wants to come, more than welcome to come. Probably get Bruce in, Bill, and Beverly, others. And what I want to do is go over everything with them. Because Craig told me this morning that some of their concerns, the same as my concern is, and that is when they get through, they want to make sure GDOT doesn't have an issue with it. And so do I. And so what we're going to do next Tuesday is we're going to go over all the details of what they're going to do, what they propose. Then I'll take them to GDOT and say, okay, here we are. This is what they're going to do. What is it going to take? When we met GDOT out there, they said if you'll do this, this, and this, you're going to jump to 8 tons, 12 tons, or whatever. Hopefully that's where we're going to be. And but anyway, it's good. They realize that they've got responsibility. We're going to be dealing with that. I don't know exactly what time, but it will be Tuesday afternoon, next Tuesday afternoon. I'll let everybody know. We were asked about.
Once that conversation is conducted, how quickly do you think they're going to move?
I think, because I keep hounding them, and one of my issues was I'm seeing Mr. Welborn tomorrow, and I think we'll move quickly. I think we'll move quickly.
After the meeting with Mr. Wilson.
I'm going to speak to him. He will ask me tomorrow, how's that railroad business?
That's right.
And so I will let him know.
Good.
We talked about putting some GPS units on some equipment.
Sure.
And checked into that. Brent, I think Brent's already left, but he checked for me. The units are about $150, and then you can monitor. It's about $12 to $14 a month to monitor. I asked him to go back and look and see if there was a less expensive option that may not require monitoring except for when you need that.
That's right.
So he's looking into that.
Be something similar to the black box on airplanes.
Yeah.
It's there when you need it.
Right, but you don't have to track it.
Track it or do your money.
Until you actually need to track it.
Right, absolutely. You can locate it.
Okay.
Looks like to me that there ought to be, it's kind of like like Bill says, a black box that goes off when you activate it. So anyway,
That box is never black, it's always on.
That's right, it's something else, yeah. But it's black after it, I guess it's black. Other than that, we did get notice in from the state, and I'll look into more detail and get this to you guys. Got notice, it looks like all of our consent order issues with the landfill has now been satisfied. So that's one more thing that's off our plate.
So what will we be getting from the state?
Just that
All
letter.
clear?
Letter.
Good.
And I have the letter, but I want to just be sure. It says, we received your minor modification request and certification that the landfill cap has not been damaged. A review of our files reveals that conditions of the reference consent order have been satisfied. Therefore, the complaint and consent order are being resolved. Your cooperation was greatly appreciated. So that should take care of everything with that, and we'll follow through to be sure that's the case. So that's one more thing off our plate that we'll check
off. Madam Chair, so then when you go back and talk to them regarding changing that amount that we've got, and we can use that letter as intent to say that we're in compliance and everything like that, so that'll be a stronger leverage for us to use that money release. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's
yes.
good.
So anyway, those are just some of the things I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Quick question,
Yes,
BSC pipeline. Have
Yes,
we had any nibblers on that?
No, that's one of my projects that we'll bite off and try to deal with next.
always
They were
something.
still trying to determine, last time I talked to them, whether it ought to be a distribution or transmission. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna get those parties back together.
Must not be that big of a deal to them all of a sudden, because they certainly aren't moving in
they
a hurry
haven't.
to get together.
Well, the ball's back in their court.
Yeah, I
They
was
gotta
saying,
make some decisions.
that's right, I mean, when they
So-
came in here, busting in here, what is it, a couple of years ago with it, you know, you thought we were going to jail or something.
The only contract
It
I've
was so
had, I call
important,
them.
it had to be done.
I've called them to say, hey, we're working on this, we'll get you this.
They just
But
have
anyway,
fun
that's
scammers
one of my
for them.
next projects.
I agree with you on that, just put a little scare in us.
All right, now we have a report from our county commissioners, Commissioner Plant.
I don't have anything. I think we've covered it all.
I have just a couple of things. One, I did have a message from Mr. Westbury from the city of Manchester, apologizing for not being here today. They were short on office staff and he had to meet with a contractor, so just to pass that along. One thing I want to talk about just a minute is the spraying of our roads, and I know Bruce isn't here. And over the years, I think the same company has sprayed for a number of years. Best bid, very few bids, whatever, you know, but we always come down to this deal of them spraying people's lawns. People who manicure their lawns all the way out to the roadway. And week before last, I had a call from, I had a visit from the folks on County Line Church Road, and they said, none of us want our area sprayed. Had not been sprayed, which, I mean, we can't just not do any of it. So I had sent you an email, I think, sent it to Bruce, and Bruce actually called me yesterday and said that, you know, he's talked with the guy that does the spray, and he just assured him that they're not spraying if the yard is manicured up to the road. Well, last night, I go to eat somewhere in Manchester, and I am hit by the folks on Phil Howe Road. Furious because they carry their yard all the way up to the road. They say, we have now come by and we've sprayed it and it looks terrible. I rode out there afterwards. I mean, they probably know they know what it looked like before. I don't have the benefit of that. I didn't see anything that just looked terrible. And I'm going to go back and talk to them again because obviously they were upset and they gave me all the neighbors' names, and like I said, I rode by everybody's house. But the guy that we're contracting with, I don't know that if he physically does the spraying or he has somebody who works for him.
Probably has drivers.
Probably, but this has been an issue year after year after year of them spraying people's yards or spraying on people's mailboxes, and it leaves a film on it or whatever. And I don't really know what else to do to address it. I mean, we spend a lot of money spraying, and we know it's important. But how hard is it to be going down that road and all of a sudden you get to an area where the grass is cut and kept and you cut your sprayer off? I mean, I don't know. I don't do that, but I mean, it seems like it would be pretty obvious and easy to do. So perhaps if they can't get their employees to do it, then perhaps we look somewhere else. I don't know. So I think it needs addressing.
Absolutely. Here's what I, think's probably happening with it. You come along, you've got different drivers, may not be the same one you had last time. They come up to the lawn and they've been told, okay, cut it off when you get to the lawn. Okay, hit the button, they cut it off. But all the herbicide is still in the hoses and the spray. So let's just say it's 200 feet, you cut it off, you get past it, you put it back on. Well, in essence, you haven't cleaned the lines. Probably what you really need to do is to stop and spray until the lines are clear or have some way to do that. Because I know from personal experience, you'll get some residue if you just cut the chemical off. Now, the spray that they use is not like, it's similar to what we'd use, a Roundup or some of the other brands, but they use a diluted mixture of it. It actually doesn't kill the grass. It just stunts the growth of it to keep it from growing so high. It does promote lower growing grasses, but my suggestion would be that in order to be sure that these drivers know I'm not supposed to spray this, and I've seen I've seen them in
I
other
said,
counties.
and we've got
A
lists.
little sign. You
Oh,
pull
those
it-
little signs that says
Yeah, a
no
little sign
spray.
that says no spray. That's what I've seen people do. In
I've
fact, I saw
seen
one
between here and
over the weekend.
LaGrange, there's several on the highway, right outside of Greenville, like Sally Nealman's, all that
Right.
has signs along there that says no
And then I
spray.
think on top of that, if we have areas we know are no spraying, when the driver comes in to spray, we say, hey, do not spray these. And I think we go back, and I'll be happy to do this and talk to the owner of
Well,
the
if I
company.
get the names of these people that got me last night, if I give
Sure.
them to you, I mean, could somebody perhaps like quickly go out and let them actually explain
Sure.
what it looked like and what's wrong with it now? 'Cause like I said, just riding down the road, I wouldn't ride down and think, oh gosh, that looks terrible. I mean, I didn't think that, but obviously it was an issue to them for what they're trying to keep manicured and keep it nice looking. And a lot of it was all the way up to the road, very nicely done.
If you'll do that, we'll go down and visit with them, and you can see where, where it's been
And
sprayed.
as I said, there were some areas that looked a little brown,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. You may see more of it after it rains a little bit, because that's
Well,
generally
Yeah.
when it has the uptake.
And I mean, I know how, I see it on the side of the highway, state highway sometimes. I wouldn't want that in front of my yard either, because I mean, of course, they go all the way up to trees and stuff. But I'll give you a couple of
Okay.
names, and if somebody can just check on that pretty quick. that would
We
be
will
great.
check on that for sure.
Just thinking of what she just said, environmental factors play such a big role with any of those herbicides. It may be the hose, it may be slope, it may be wind conditions that day.
That's
There's so
right.
many things that affect that.
That's right.
Maybe we need to go back and reevaluate that whole program. Or we get, what's our best bang for our buck?
You know, and one time since I've been on board, we did cut out the spraying, just
Right.
because of the expense, that was the main thing. Then it went back and we couldn't get around to cut it enough, so then we had, the high grass and deer in it or whatever. But, if we don't have it, maybe we do increase, take that money that we're spending, because it's quite a bit of money, isn't it? Isn't it $15,000 per spray?
Yeah,
Probably.
3 sprays, it's about 46,000.
Yeah, so maybe we take that money, we buy another tractor and put another employee out there cutting more. I mean, I don't
Right.
know, that might be an option.
The spraying is a very effective program.
Because part of it is to retard, like you said, it retards
right.
it, doesn't actually just kill it, it keeps it from growing.
Yeah, and it
so
promotes
fast.
the low, I mean, where I live, it's been sprayed for years. And all I've got now is Bermuda grass. So it never gets over yay high.
So it doesn't need spraying.
It doesn't need spraying anymore. And rarely does it ever need cutting. Instead of having to cut it 3 or 4 times a year, might get cut once a year, or might not even get to it. And I remember a day when, grass would be yay high, and the deer would be right there eating, and they'd step out. We don't have that problem. It's a good program. And what we do to address the people that didn't want it sprayed was have them put out just a small sign. And then I think what needs to happen is the guy needs to stop and be sure that the lines are cleared before he goes on. Because you're right, wind, a lot of different things can make a difference in that. But we'll contact them. And then
Like I said, then maybe they could tell you better, what they did or didn't do, or what it looked like, or whatever. So I'll get that to you.
And perhaps even evaluate those roads that we think need the spraying, and those that have come under control, we'll just forget it.
That's right. Yeah, we need to be evaluating that area. Once that Bermuda grass stand comes in, and you really don't have to spray it much anymore.
And we've also put on extra summer help for that very reason.
Right, absolutely. So I will look into that.
Okay.
I don't want to jump ahead of us real quick. I've got to leave by noon at the latest. Because I got court at 1:30, especially set for me and my cases, so I just want to let everybody know.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Does this mean no executive session?
Well, it's very brief, I think.
Yeah, it'll either be very brief, or we don't even really, I mean, it's some things I wanted to catch you guys up on, but I mean, we don't even really have to do that. Since it's been such a long day, I'll just call you and talk to you guys about it. It's just not.
I have just a couple other things I want to mention.
Yes.
Also, I had a resident talk to me about some tires that had been dumped on their property, and maybe this had been some time ago. And he got them off his property and pulled them to the side of the road. He said he called the county and told them about it, and the county told him that we would not come and pick them up. Well, they're right there in front of his house on the side of the road, so he has now moved them back further on his property, because he said if somebody ran off the road, hit them, he felt like he'd be liable. I just think that's another, we need to talk to him
Okay.
and just see, I don't know if there's anything we can do. I don't know how long ago he's talking about that he called and was told that, everybody always told somebody.
Right.
And somebody
I've
said
heard
it, so I don't know.
something similar, and I think what I understood was there were a few tires and said, we'll do it, and then it turned into a lot of tires.
Okay.
And,
All right.
but I will, if you
Okay.
give me that name, I will contact
All right,
them
let
and
me do
see.
that. Last week, I was in a meeting in Warm Springs with, I know GDOT was there, and Carolyn, you were there, because somebody else was there, I can't remember. Anyway, they're looking at doing some things in Warm Springs. I know the mayor wasn't here today, so I was just gonna mention this. They're working to do some crosswalks there, having a real issue with all the traffic, which is good, and the pedestrians and all. But, y'all remember when we did the roundabout in Harris City, that came under some quick response money for GDOT? And it comes to find out, GDOT was already looking at Warm Springs at that four-way stop there to do something different to keep traffic flowing. And they offered to use some quick response money if the city would approve it, and the city did approve it at their meeting. And so there is going to be a type of roundabout there. It's not going to be your really big thing, but something to keep the traffic flowing on 41. And then when you're coming up, which is Broad Street, coming up through town. And so, they actually talk about it.
Three-way thing right there?
Well, it's really a four-way stop, but you don't have much traffic from that left side. But they're talking about doing it and having it completed in August and September.
And that's using the rapid
Rapid response.
response.
And so the city did approve to let them do it. It's not gonna cost the city anything, but in that, there are gonna be some enhancements for the crosswalks and stuff. And there are some things that have to be done there that the city might have to come up with some money or somebody to help with it. But that's a good thing for Warm Springs. If you do try to cross the road down there, you're about taking your life in your own hands. And they're talking about putting some pedestrian signs that you just sit in the middle of the road. You see those in places to try to help with that. I think that's it for me. Commissioner McCoy?
Something I noted here from our meeting yesterday, and Carolyn, you correct me if this is not correct, but correct me if this is not correct. That makes good English. At 1800 hours over at the Greenville High School, there's a dinner coming up on the 19th. The businesses are all going to be there. It's kind of an interaction with the schools and the business, and we're all going to be invited to be there. I just thought I would make mention of that. One other thing that I want to do too, the next work session we have, let's bring up scrap tires, and maybe even if we can get somebody from the state down here to talk to us, that's in that program.
All right.
I would like to include that.
And just to, I hate to interrupt, but Bill is working in there too on our pricing for us disposing of tires,
Right.
because we have been given a per tire amount that Bruce gave. I've actually talked to a tire company to see what they pay to dispose of it and how it works and how that name. So we're trying to get some information. So that might be a good time to discuss all that and make sure we're not being taken
Well, I know
on disposing of our tires. Okay.
years ago, they had so much money in that scrap tire program, it was almost like a super fund.
Yeah.
So
But and it's still
probably
there,
something that-
and I did send something to Representative Buckner, and she did check on it, and it is for like big piles they find. It's not even money we can get out of it. We did try.
I was sad when I read that.
Me too.
They don't encourage you to clean up.
That was the only two things I wanted to highlight.
All right, thank you.
As I shared with Chairman Hadley, the vendor we use doesn't track the cost per tire, they track it by ton. So we're having a little bit of issue how to get that down to a per tire cost. But we're going to get there though. What they do is they give us a 12-foot steel cage, and we just fill it up with tires and they come pick it up.
And if it's too big, you have to cut it
And
and do all these other
And I mean, and Bruce may have just been guessing, but if it's averaging out $6 per tire, that is high for a regular automobile tire. You know, but I know we have other tires too, but like I said, I think that's just something we need to check on and make sure.
We haven't been able to talk, Bill and I have talked that, we haven't able to talk Bruce, but he may have been including our cost will pick up,
Man-hour.
man hours taking it over.
And he may be.
And I think there's a better way we can do that. And y'all talk about this the other, but if we could centralize our locations with these tire collections the next time and not have to handle those so much, that would be a big money saver.
Well, and this tire store that I talked with, it is a tire recycler that comes to get it from them. I mean, and he wants the tires, you know. But he also said that he is the tire shop owner. He's very regulated by the state.
That's right.
He has to show proof how many tires he sent off for disposal. He has to be able to have his records of how many tires he sold. And so if we do have these backyard people who are doing it without a operating permit, then therefore they are not being checked by the state, and they very well could be some of the ones who do go out and dump because they collect these tires, and they're not having to answer anybody, so it's a lot of things we probably need to check on. As far as that's concerned.
I'll see if I can get some more from the state.
That's probably happening more than anything.
All right, Commissioner Hines?
Thank you. Just a couple of things, and I'll try to be brief as well. In 2014, Georgia became the #1 producer of blackberries state in the nation. So just in the past 24 years, Georgia has gone from 10 million pounds of blueberries grown on about 3,500 acres to nearly 100 million pounds on 20,000 acres. So in the past, Diverse Power magazine, there was a feature story about a gentleman in Meriwether County, Mr. Dow, who's on the city council for Lonoke, and they featured his blueberry farm. So we are once again getting publicity, and since Georgia is ranked #1 for blueberries, we may encourage more people in the county to raise more blueberries. So that's an option. So I just wanted to bring that up. Unfortunately, sometimes we're not always able to get the other cities to come. You know, Greenville and Warm Springs and Manchester are always here, and I appreciate them coming, giving us update. Unfortunately, I still haven't been able to be successful to get Luthersville and Lonoke here all the time. However, I'm going to share with you some things. Yesterday, the City Council had a meeting, and Alan Smith Consulting was there to have their public hearing about the notice for their community block grant development application, because they're wanting to take the old bank building and have it refurbished. So that was a good dialogue. There was some good things that were discussed. Probably the sad thing for me, we were initially, when they were talking about it, we were hoping the mural project could go on that building, but unfortunately it will not be able to do that because of the particular grant and preserving it back to its natural state. It will not allow them to do that. However, the city is moving forward for that community block grant, and the one thing that they talked about was looking for a tenant. So anyone know of any lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, anybody who wants to rent out a building? Because part of the stipulation in this grant is to have a tenant. So hopefully that will be a very big plus for the city of Luthersville. For the city of Lonoke, I attended their meeting. One of the things that was discussed there, they had GDOT was there to talk about 54 and Forest Road and all the traffic that's going in there and the accidents and the volume. And so the GDOT representative was there, and he basically had done had pulled up the data and everything for them. The one thing that they discussed was, once again, roundabout.
Oh, they all about roundabouts.
They're all about roundabouts, but in actuality, roundabouts are not new. They're just a new it.
Yeah.
You know, because if you go to Europe, different countries, that's all you see. But you know, the feasibility of it right now. But it was good that they at least came in and talked to them about that. The other thing, Lonoke bought the country store, and I'm not sure what they want to do with it as of yet, but I will say this, they were able to put a new roof on the building, so some good things are happening over there, and I want to thank Bruce O'Neill and Mr. Gay for getting the tires there. Unfortunately, they got missed, so in that time, more people came out and put more tires. So the guy was like, if we had got them, but I think what they said is they went to St. Mark, and they didn't think of St. Mark and Lonoke as separate, and by the time they got back, more tires had been put there. But once again, I want to thank you all for clearing that up. So that's about it.
And I mentioned to them, they called me at home, and I mentioned to them, well, we're going to get them, but you guys need to help us watch. Don't let anyone else bring any more in.
Oh,
We
one
don't
other
need to
thing, I'm
continue.
sorry. Last week was National Small Business Week, and once again, I had sent some information to Ms. Coker to post some of our small businesses in the area. You know, we want to promote small business, and I would like to say Luthersville has received requests for 5 new businesses in the city limits of Luthersville. So last night at the city council meeting, there was a young lady who's from Douglas County. They're moving to Meriwether County. They have a landscaping management company. So they've already moved into Meriwether County, and their objective is to kind of this area from Coweta, Meriwether, Peachtree City, LaGrange. So that's exciting. They've had a gentleman who opened up a car wash business. Another gentleman wanted to do something with ice. So there are a lot of small businesses coming into our county. So once again, I think if we can promote that even more or identify those who have moved into the county, that's a plus, you know. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Henderson?
I gotta go.
Okay.
Sure. Squire Theron grows blueberries.
I do. I do, and
I'm gonna make sure you get featured in the next.
Don't feature me, but I will, because I don't need any publicity, but they'll be coming in probably in the next, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks.
There's a
I'll let you
blueberry
guys
farm right
know.
next to my house too, and it's been
I
there
love
for
it.
years,
Come and get
and they sell a lot of them every year. Right there on the highway, right across from Meriwether State.
I mean, we think of peaches and peanuts, but now we've got
They'll do it
blueberries.
both ways. You can pick it for $10 a
Blueberry
gallon,
loves us
or
some
they'll
acid
pick them
salt.
for
So that's why it does.
$15,
They do
$18
well
a
in the
gallon or
acid
something.
$10 a gallon's not bad.
No.
No.
And it's real
Pick it
clean and
up.
neat, you know, so
Yeah.
you don't worry so much about snakes and stuff, so.
Yeah, I try to keep these cut, so truly, if any of you guys want any, you're welcome to come, and like I say, I just give them to my family and friends, so. Yeah.
Does anybody need any Vidalia onion plum? I've got to pick up some for my corn stuff today, if anybody needs any. How much is it?
We're selling it.
$10 for a 10-pound bag and $22
We're
for
actually selling them also.
We're
Okay.
selling it.
We have some extras, I
Competition.
think, in the office, I'm not sure how much they've got.
You still have some?
I believe so. I hadn't put the number this one.
If they're sold out, I can get you some, or Susan can get you some.
All right, we come to our time for public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to say anything, you come to the podium, state your name, and we'll give you 3 minutes to talk. Going once, going twice, gone. We've already been told that we will not have an executive session, but our future meetings, May 24th, which will be a regular meeting at 6 p.m. There is the Memorial Day holiday on May 30th.
Would y'all consider coming an hour early for a workshop to finalize the
Budget.
these budget requests that we heard today?
On the 24th,
On the 24th.
okay? Coming at 5 p.m.
Or 5 or 5:30, whatever?
Let's do 5 p.m. so we have just a few minute
Okay.
break maybe in
Yeah.
between 5 p.m.
And our regular, you like that?
Thank you.
I'll get you a color copy, you might not like it,
Your frame.
but I may try to put one of those together for some of our other projects too. So, anyway, on the other work session where you want to talk about the tires or whatever,
Yes,
a particular date you guys want to do the last meeting in June?
that would
for
be
that?
fine.
Okay.
And I would suggest if we can get somebody from that scrap tire program to come down,
I'll get
because I bet
somebody.
there's options that they have.
I'll get somebody that will come and share this.
They used to be always willing to come out and talk.
Sure.
All right, can we set that one on the
What time is that work session?
5 o'clock?
5.
5 next, on the 24th. But if we want to go ahead and set that one for June on the day of our last meeting, can we go ahead and set that for 4 o'clock that day?
4 o'clock.
On the 28th?
And I'll need to leave a little bit early on the 24th. I've got 2 candidates that have election night. So
Okay.
that's election night.
Oh,
Oh, wow, that is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, please, Christine.
I agree.
And I know I will be out of town on June 8th meeting, because Commissioner McCoy's going to handle the meeting that day. All right, is anything else to come before board? Hearing none, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.